2018, 9 o'clock. Counselor, could I ask you to lead us in the pledge, sir? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Happy May to everybody. Madam Secretary, if you're not totally involved with your chair this morning, could you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Flower.
I am present.
Commissioner Candy.
Here.
Commissioner Prince.
Present.
Attorney Clint Smith.
Present.
And Clerk to the Board Kelly Camper present.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate that. Any amendments to the agenda, gentlemen?
I do not.
Okay, you're good with bringing your everything up in Commissioner reports. Commissioner Candy, anything?
No agenda.
Okay, nor do I. Audience introductions.
Tracy
Custer.
Bello.
There's a lot.
She's going to get a writer's cramp.
And you probably already had it, Jackie Bubis for the summer.
All right, thank you, ladies, for being here. I don't believe we have any minutes to approve, so we'll move on to commissioner items. Commissioner Kanda, anything?
Yeah, but had a couple meetings yesterday after the meeting. Talked to Mike Joels. He's the pilot for the guys down at that bought Wolf Springs. And it's a family. There is no business going on down there. It's strictly their own airplane with their own deal. They're going to be flying in and out a lot. And he's a good guy. He speaks for them, so I'm dealing with him. And they, are willing to work with us. They really are excited about actually improving the ramp so they can park the airplane, get it out of the way, and enable other people to come in for the fuel. They want to be able to put a tank in there. They don't really want a truck. Those kinds of things. So we're going to work the details out with them, and I'll talk with Alan on the board, and we'll see what we can work out. Right now, there's no decisions been made on anything. They do want to test the runway, which is necessary, just to get the landing weight. And they don't have to land at max weight. They just got to know what weight to load the fuel to. That airplane holds 2,000 gallons of fuel, 2,300, and you multiply that by 6. That's the load of fuel that it takes on. And so it's a Falcon airplane, 12-passenger family airplane. And it'd be nice to have that kind of ability to have that kind of an airplane. And I got a good relationship with that pilot, and he's a good guy. The family sounds like a real great family from Texas.
So now is Joel's the pilot?
He's the pilot, and he's their spokesman for this whole deal. And so what he says goes, and he says when we cut a deal, they will sign whatever contract we want to have signed, and they'll all 5 sign it. The whole family will. So up to, they're going to be, and they're footing the expense. As a matter of fact, the wingspan on that airplane is 670 feet, which is all wider than the runway. And it has winglets on it. It can go 4,000 miles with a fuel load. So runway's fine. They're happy with it, except possibly in a crosswind. And I've had problems out there too. They think that one of the east berm on the side of the runway pretty steep, and they said we've got equipment and everything. If we feel that we need to move it, we'll do it at our expense, and we'll landscape that, re-slope it so that it's safe. So that's stuff that we're talking about. So
Sounds like a win-win.
I can't beat that.
Welcome to Custer County.
Yeah, and they are excited about sealing, getting the runway and getting her all painted up pretty. And we of course are going to seal the runway too. But they want to help. This is pretty good.
Do they want to put a hangar out there?
Yes. No, they want to have a ramp to park it on. They want to build a building. Yeah, they may. So that means bigger. If you picture the ramp south of the old hangar, the last hangar to the south, where the gate is going into the private area, that ramp there will probably That's their best slot, and we'll probably make that a bigger concrete ramp for a lot of airplanes so they can turn a 70-foot wingspan around, get it out of the way, and taxi up to their fuel tank to get fuel. And they said they have to move it. They can move it with their own. They got a Jeep or something with a tow hitch that hooks to the airplane. You know, they're willing to work. So that's good news. And then I've already been in touch with the engineering guys on it, and I told them I'd get back with the engineers so we understand. I told them it's going to be probably more expensive they want to bore 2-inch holes to 3-inch holes, maybe 15 feet down or until they hit bedrock. Not a big deal, but when you plug those, I told them, make sure we plug them so that it doesn't push them when the ground heaves and freezes, it pushes them back up. And so we'll talk about the method to do that, which might be more expensive than you would do down in South Texas. So that would be at their expense. All right, and then the other thing, road and bridge wise, you all got a letter. I've had it before from Sarah, or what's her name? Reed, Claire, Candy, yeah. And yes, Candy Sage. We've been working that. I've been out there twice already with other people talking about it, and Gary's well aware of that road. And there's been other priorities right now. We've been prioritizing it. So he's going out there today. Actually, they're grading on it today. So there is 13 miles of road, pretty well washboardy out there. There's a lot of traffic on it. And this dirt, dusty time of the year is hard to keep it maintained without the water, moisture. So we've talked about putting down a mag chloride seal coat on it. And I believe we're going to be able to do a few miles of that and take the worst stretches as we go along to smooth that out and keep it going. It's been more, even though she points out, oh, gosh, it used to get graded a lot more. Well, before it wasn't as dry as it is, and it hasn't been the kind of year we've had, and traffic's more on it. So we're working on it, and I'm sending her back a nice note telling her thanks. And we've had other people tell me the same thing. So we're working on it, just to let everybody know.
Is that Oak Creek grade?
Oak Creek grade, 13 miles of dirt road, and we're starting at the Fremont County end because it's the worst through there up first. And what else did I have on here? I think that's it.
Question, the water trucks, have those been ordered? Or?
Yes.
Okay, great. What are they, do you have any idea what
It'll be a little bit more than got outfit yet. We'll have to ask Gary when he's here if he's got the latest on his schedule.
No problem.
And they did take the one out to Sterling to get that tank
Yeah.
put on it, so did that last week.
Yeah.
Okay, so the people that bought, this Dave Watts that bought the south half of Wolf Springs, that's the family that owns the airport, and you haven't talked with them?
No, but they've asked me to. I've invited them over to visit. That they're a very nice family, according to the pilot, and from what he says about the family, they're all together, son-in-law, and kids, younger kids.
And do you anticipate the fair board the airport board making these decisions about?
No, we will.
Okay. So
And I'm going to make the recommendation.
They will bring
I'll
those
deal
to us.
with them, and the fair board or the airport board has their budget, their deal, and they've already deferred it to me to bring forward as we see fit. We've got to get a contract. We'll all have to get together, get the right agreements. Lawyers got to get involved, make sure there's no liability issues, or blah blah blah.
yeah, I know there's some concern about core drilling that runway. Say we're talking, a couple hundred holes down through there?
Quite a few. Remember, I don't know if you heard yesterday or today that I described it. They're going to drill a hole on the side, go up 250 feet into the center, drill a hole off to the side, drill a hole 250 feet all the way down the runway. So there's going to be several hundred holes out there, and it's been done before. It's not a big deal, but as small as it is. But that's why I said, especially the center line, you want to make sure those are. We'll probably dig up rather than just. You don't want to throw in. You got a choice: hot mix or a concrete thing that hardens up solid, because it'll heat, it'll push it up. And so what we'll probably do is dig down a foot or so or more and put new road base in the square hole and make it right and compact it. And it'll be like a nice patch you wouldn't even see, like you see on the highways when they do it. So that's what we'll discuss, and we'll get the engineering. The engineers that do this do it for a living. It's not a hit or miss thing, and they do it professionally on all runways. So they don't want to risk their airplane either.
And they're looking at a company out of Grand Junction for the engineering or not?
It's not out of Grand Junction, I don't think. It's the Armstrong Engineering. They're a big outfit. They have an outfit in Grand Junction, but they're all over the state, the United States.
Okay, good. Mr. Prince?
And the only thing I have is we received a contract from HES, Hank Smith, Hunter Smith, I'm sorry, Elevator Services. They would like to, for the county to hire them to, and I will read what it is they want. It's a contract, annual contract. This is an oil and grease.
I'll get it.
Somebody's alive in here. It's a maintenance agreement for the elevator in Wetmore. It's an oil and grease only contract, therefore hydraulic fuel parts, repair calls are not included as part of this agreement. They're willing to come out for $175 an hour for other things, or $250 or $260 on the weekends. They want $550 to do this oil and grease once a year with a 5% cap escalator on a 3-year contract. My recommendation is that we pass on this contract as being too expensive, inexplicit, and unnecessary at this time.
Okay, I agree with you. Mr. Candy, have any feelings about that?
We're gonna have to do it sooner or later, but that's too new.
Yeah, I think we address it down the road.
Periodically, they're gonna have to. I think there's a law that says you gotta do it. Some requirement, I should say.
I'll tell you what, why don't I do some more research on that, and I certainly, before I sign a $550 bid for grease and oil, would at least want to get some complimentary
Why
offers
don't you
from other companies.
talk to Roger Camper? He put in the elevator at Valley Assisted, and they have a maintenance requirement there.
Okay.
And that you might be able to tag on to a couple public buildings like that. When they come up to do that, they could do what?
I'll do it. That's all I have.
All right, so, I don't really have anything from yesterday. I did attend a Fair Board meeting last night up at Silver Cliff Town Hall, and it seems like they're moving forward, looking at some capital improvement projects. They did come up with I thought, a pretty good idea about, they were gonna rebuild the hog pens on the south side of the show ring, that metal, open-sided metal building. Now they're thinking they may
You want to close it? Or?
no, they may move the show ring to a tent and then use the current show ring as a new hog barn. So they're meeting, I think, today, this afternoon, with the tent people to discuss that. So for a long time, that before we put that metal building up where the show ring is now, that was a tent. We used it for years. Had that big pole in the center of it, remember that? So that would probably, initially this year anyway, probably saving between $20,000 and $25,000. So I thought that was a good plan. But other than that, that's all I have. Attorney items?
Well, as you know, yesterday afternoon, the attorney for Ms. Morris was here. Commissioner Prince, Commissioner Flower were present, and we talked to the attorney about that easement that goes up to the towers. And I always forget, you call it Hibbs Hill. So we heard what she had to say and discussed that. And then I drove up there again yesterday
Oh, did you?
afternoon by myself just to go take a second look to see.
Did you come out with a greeting card to
No,
greet you?
I didn't see her around this time. But the attorney told us that she'd gone to visit Ms. Morris first because she wanted to see, and then she hiked on up all the way to the top herself. So she looked pretty fit. I guess she did too.
That's right.
But so she was going to give us a written proposal that we'll talk about. The one thing is, there's no question, it's a public easement. There's not
That's
any
right.
way. There's not any way that Ms.
No county
Morris-
right-of-ways that are not public access that I know of.
And it can't. I mean, I know there's some issues with some other with property owners and
Yeah,
there's
they gotta get in and out.
stuff going on up there, but it can't be fenced or closed off, and it can't be limited to just certain people doing that. And I had some other thoughts about it afterwards. Will fall into the legal realm, and it may be necessary down the road to have an executive session where I give my legal opinion on some things, but that's the only thing I did since yesterday's meeting.
Good. You didn't sleep
No.
Oh,
I stayed up all night and read law
and
books.
got ready for
Yeah.
today's meeting?
Brushing up.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Easement law.
Administrative assistant items.
I have nothing.
Okay, thank you. Our next item agenda is the staff reports, so we will,
You wanna welcome Louie to the
welcome Louis.
Good morning.
Nice to have you here, thank you.
Thank you.
You're up, Louis. You have to kill some time while we're waiting.
You gotta come
We're
sit
gonna
down.
be
On the witness stand,
yeah.
you're gonna be cross-examined.
So I got a call from, Vince Cook, down at the, or Byron or someone, I don't know, but they said that Gary said that he was running late. And obviously Rusty isn't here yet.
Okay.
Do you want me to
Donna?
move on to
Yeah.
Donna?
Yep,
Okay.
or extension, either one is
Extension.
fine.
Mm,
Your choice.
okay, well, let's see here.
We might get done on time.
Yeah.
Keep this up.
Yay.
So the public appreciates that.
Define on time.
That's what I was
Shannon, it's
thinking.
Brenda and the commissioners are.
On
Hey,
time
are
is
you
before
ready to give your
11:30.
report now? Okay, that'd be great, thanks, bye. She's on her way.
Good. Thank you, ma'am, appreciate it.
That's what Kelly said, by the way. She sets the time.
She should set up that if you go over, you have to feed everyone.
Buck a
Like
minute.
some sort of,
Kitty.
Incentive to
Buck a minute.
keep it
Every
short
minute
because
yeah.
you have to feed everyone at, 12:02.
Well, I've got some personal opinions about what Kelly needs to do and what she doesn't need to do, but I'm gonna keep those to myself.
Whoa, what's that all about?
Not sure.
Yeah, you-
I was
Sassy today.
I was privy to witness some activity over there in your area.
Every day.
Take a turn backwards here. Now I got room for my legs.
Somebody was messing with your
See if you
operation over there, weren't
Yeah.
they?
If you would've slept, maybe you would've noticed that.
Bless you.
Thank you.
And planning and zoning is meeting with conferencing the bowling alley today.
Right.
Mr. Bill, they're having court in here, so.
Planning and zoning.
What's going on at the landfill? What are we doing?
CDPHE's coming down to talk about those monitoring wells and moving forward with that whole.
They wanna do 2 instead of 3.
It was probably a year and a half ago or longer when Jenna Webber, when they would do those for free. So, glad to finally get on with it.
Why it'd be nice if they stuck with 3, because we can use that for the engineering.
Come in. How are you?
Oh, I'm all right. How are you?
Good.
That sounded
Yeah.
iffy. What's the matter?
Good morning.
Long weekend, busy day yesterday, beat.
Thanks for coming down. We're
Oh, no problem.
Some scheduling issues, so we appreciate that. Get my text or my email this morning about extension advisory minutes. I don't even know if we've got those, but when we get them, we can send them to Brenda.
Extension invite from last meeting? Mm-hmm. I sent them out. I sent them out to everyone asking for any revisions right after I called them minutes because they were just my notes.
Okay.
But I will send them to Brenda.
Yeah, and just a sidebar real quick, we're back to that discussion of when should those minutes be posted, and I thought we had said they probably need to be approved at a meeting prior to posting them.
Absolutely.
So,
So our next meeting is tomorrow, so we could approve those minutes then, and then they can be posted.
good.
Now,
Okay.
should I send them to Brenda once they're approved?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
that'd be great. You can just add her to your distribution list when you send those out to your members.
Okay. Got it.
Or instruct the secretary to do that. That's or,
Yes, as soon as we elect.
yeah, you don't necessarily have to do it, secretary certainly could. Good, okay.
Okey doke. Alright, so, let's see. So we had the extension, the first new extension advisory committee meeting on the 3rd of April, at the conference room over at Greg Watkins' office. In that meeting, we discussed a complete rewriting of the bylaws. The entire group of us found a lot of errors or just problems with them. So Tom had sent me some of his suggested revisions, and I'm working on mine as well, and we'll have those to present to the committee tomorrow at our meeting, which will be at 4:15 in the ag classroom. That way we can make sure Leah gets to come. The ag classroom.
Oh,
so
sorry.
Leah's room over at the school.
I'm sorry, I don't hear very well.
Sorry.
I apologize.
We also discussed at that meeting, I brought in my thoughts on membership. There's very high representation of 4-H in that committee, which is great, but there's little representation of the other areas of extension on that committee. So we discussed that, and the committee was very supportive, and so the plan was that everyone was to consider any other members that they would like to suggest to the committee, and we will be discussing those people tomorrow. We also talked about methods for reaching out to the community about what extension is and what extension has to offer the community. That it's not just 4-H or that it's not just about gardening, etc.
Great idea.
So the discussion for that should continue. So tomorrow we're planning to go over those bylaws, membership, and then perhaps discuss executive members. Let's see, from the 9th through the 12th, I was in Breckenridge at the 4-H mega meeting, which is basically just networking with other extension agents and directors throughout the state. Fun time.
Did you stay or did you travel back and forth?
I went back and forth because it's only an hour from my house, so it actually took me less time to get there than here. So that it worked out well. The weather was fine, but we worked on a lot of things, talking about just interacting with parents and members, and that's basically what the focus of the entire meeting was. We had a livestock and range PRU meeting in Fort Collins on the 23rd and 24th. So again, I just networked with a lot of CSU Extension, the CSU Extension vets, and then professional staff in the livestock and range industries, mainly the beef cattle industries. And our main topics up there, we're talking about drought and wildfires and the hardships that cattle owners are facing, and what resources we have and how we can combat those issues.
What does PRU stand for?
Good question.
Never mind. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I thought it was an acronym for somebody you use all the time. I apologize.
It's
not a problem.
not, and it was actually brought up in that meeting. It's basically just a committee.
That's fine, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, it's okay. I thought about that and I was like,
It's not a point,
If it's on there, it's fair game, that's the way I know.
let's see, in terms of the CART and emergency management plans for the county, I attended the Extension Disaster Emergency Network Training in Salida on the 25th, which was an all-day event. Tom was also there, as well as Meredith and Phil. Someone else was there. Paul Sage. Thank you. And so it was a very eye-opening training. I wasn't expecting all of that. But it was great. There were people there from the University of Wyoming, the USDA vets were there, state vet, Dr. Rohr was there, Chaffey County staff, and Extension vet staff were all there. I also had an opportunity to speak with, I believe, Christy Camper, who had a previous CART plan in place for the county. So she and I are going to get together sometime soon and go over that plan. Cindy and Meredith are looking for copies of that over in their office so that we don't have to start from square one. And I know that Tom in Pueblo County and Kurt over in Chaffey County, they've been pretty busy, but they have some plans in place as well that they think would really benefit us here. So just trying to work with everyone and get something in place for livestock and also small and domestic animals, because I did meet with the Animal Welfare League, their Wet Mountain Animal Welfare League, and discuss some things with them. So they've been putting out helpful information to the community on their blog posts. We came up with some suggestions and plans for them. Let's see. And then Meredith also brought me over the EOP and asked me to revise it for extension staff. So they kind of just filled some things in and asked me to review it. So I'm working on that this week. For 4-H.
Can I interrupt you just for a second before we move on?
Sure.
Miss Camper, is she over to school or?
No, she's the regional director now.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of campers.
They're all happy,
Yes, they are.
right?
Mostly.
Campers, yeah.
Mostly.
It's Chrissy Camper at the
Yes,
school.
if that's
Chrissy
the one.
Camper is at the school, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So for 4-H, we've completed the weigh-ins, except for anyone who's not able to attend on Sunday, and I'll be sending out a schedule, and they are supposed to get with someone from the fair board or get a hold of me. We'll get those weigh-ins done, and then as far as the retinal scanning, I was supposed to be up in Rifle for that training, and the weather was just not cooperating. After 6 hours of driving, I said, that's enough, and went home. So Kurt and I are working together, Kurt from Chaffey County Extension. We're working together to get my training done on the retinal scanner that we're using from their office, and I'm just going to go around and do home visits for anyone that needs retinal scans for state fair. And then I'm organizing with the superintendents of the different livestock groups, so we can go out and do the home visits, double checks on all the animals, and make sure we have all the paperwork together. Let's see. For the fair, Diane Rose asked me to serve on the judges selection committee. So we've been looking to secure county fair judges. We have half of them secured so far. We're still working on a few of the indoor judges and a beef judge, but we have the rest secured. And we have a new 4-H club currently going through the approval process. Beth Cartwright, one of the shooting sports leaders, she's starting a new club, and
I'm proud of you.
so we're working on that. She's got 5 members ready to sign up, and we're getting them all up to speed. So
That's going to be a general
just a
club.
general 4-H club. There'll be the Wolverines, and they should be meeting on Friday the 11th at one of the churches here in town, and they're going to do 2 community service projects to make up for the time that's been missed, and a few of the kids have already either been in other 4-H clubs or they've been working independently, so I'm working with them on getting some written statements and some extra work completed to get them up to speed. So,
just a quick question on, because judging brought it up. You guys, are the kids raising goats too?
mm-hmm.
So they're judging those as well.
Mm-hmm.
Are you working with the Amish population out there to get them into 4-H or at all? Has anybody ever asked them?
Trying to. They've come upstairs a few times, inquiring about various things, and I believe a few of them are interested. So they're on my list of people to reach out to.
There may be some judges out there.
Yeah, and I think they'd be interested in poultry as well.
Yeah.
We don't have many poultry kids. We actually have 2 showing chickens, and someone just called on Friday about adding a turkey. But my understanding is the
One
Amish
turkey to get
population
grand
has a lot.
champion.
Yeah, right. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that because there's definitely not a lot of poultry down
Yeah,
here,
that's true.
and I can help with that for sure. And I had someone else come in my office from the community a couple weeks ago, inquiring about poultry and bringing a poultry show or like a swap or something down here to the county. And so I asked them to get a group of names together too, because I told them right now I'm going to be doing the showing clinics for the poultry kids. But if they have anybody, I'd like to get them involved. So we're working on that too.
Yeah, that guy's done some swaps up here by the NRCS meeting building in the past. I don't know his name. I spoke with him too and actually told him he should come up and talk to you. So I'm
Oh, okay. Yeah, he had me on the phone with a few people that day. So yeah, we'll figure that out. I wasn't sure if you want me to give an update on the weed board, but I have those notes in here just in case.
I think we're good.
Okay. In that case, the San Luis Valley Potato Growers Research Program that I had sent out, huge participation from the community. I was pretty surprised at how many applications came in. We had Jordan from Wet Mountain Tribune. He put an article in the paper to help advertise for that for free. He did a little piece there, so that was great. And I had applications coming in well after the deadline, but I told everyone, put them in anyway. If I can accommodate them, I will. I ordered extras just in case. And then another program came up from the same research center, but with a different set of potatoes. So I got a few 100 pounds of those, and they'll be available as well. So I have to be in Pueblo from the 8th through the 10th for regional extension meeting, and someone from the research center is going to bring them up and deliver them to me there. And so they'll be here for pickup on the 11th and then the entire week thereafter, the 14th through the 18th. So I'll be posting that information for everyone and reaching out to all the participants this week. Let's see, other things that are coming up. As I said, Extension Advisory Committee meeting will be tomorrow, 4:15 in the Ag classroom at the school. I'll be in Pueblo from the 8th through the 10th for the regional extension meeting, and then potato pickup that Friday and the week after. For anybody that's interested or who could not attend the Eden disaster training in Salida, there'll be another one on the 15th of May in Los Animas County. And I also spoke with a few people at the Salida training because I know a lot of the concern that came up was the community really wants one here in town so they can attend. And so we might be able to get one of those together. I might be able to work with a few people and have some sort of a presentation here in town sometime this month. But I'll let you know as soon as I have details on that. Next weed board meeting is the 17th at 2 p.m. in the courtroom. And then there's a greenhouse and high tunnel workshop in El Paso on the 18th. And then one thing that I think everybody, or a lot of people might be really interested in, is on the 19th, which is a Saturday in Canyon City. They're having a Healthy Lands open house from 9 in the morning until 12 p.m. It's not, you don't have to be there the entire time. It's open house, come and go as you please. And that'll be in the Garden Park building right there in town. And they're going to have all sorts of things. You can bring in different samples of weeds, flowers, plants, soil, and they will be able to help you identify what those things are. They're going to have a soil tunnel. They're going to have a lot of resources for weed management, soil management. So it'd be a great opportunity for anybody who was willing to drive up there that day. And I think I've posted the flyer for that on the bulletin board.
Yeah, I've got that on my calendar. I'm planning on attending.
And I think that's all I have for today.
So what are you doing in your spare time?
In my spare time.
That was rhetorical. What I'm really trying to say
You'd be
is
driving, wouldn't you?
you're very, very busy,
Driving.
and it looks like things are going well, and I appreciate it. Is there anything the county could do to help you that we're not doing at this point? Are we supporting you the way you'd like to be?
I believe so.
Okay.
I'm not like it here.
We just complain.
Got more and more
If there's
people
an
coming
issue, you
upstairs.
complain, okay?
Well,
We're really pleased you.
I will let you know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Want to commend you on your vocabulary. You're doing well. Somebody nipped her the other day about her pronunciation of
Pueblo.
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 So you've done well.
Buena Vista.
You've done well. Yeah.
That's what I said
Just
in the
good.
report meeting. I
Just-
said, you say Buena Vista, but it's
What
spelled
is it?
Buena Vista.
It's Buena Vista, and Pueblo is
My
Pueblo.
university.
It's a lot.
So,
They call it either here.
They said, well, it's Spanish. I said, wouldn't it be Buena Vista?
that's
You go
true.
with the
Anyway.
local pronunciation.
But I've
When in Rome.
That's right.
certainly heard good comments about your work and your efforts, so we appreciate that. Thank you.
I appreciate it as well.
Thanks for coming down.
Thank you.
See you next time.
Alrighty.
Thanks for everything.
Thanks.
Anybody paying your mileage for all that driving?
What's that?
Is anybody paying your mileage for?
Be on
Not going back and forth from work to here, but when I run all over the rest of the state.
But I
yes.
mean, from your home in Hartsville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that, 100 miles? More than 100.
It's 79.5 miles door to door.
One way.
And if I'm lucky, it takes me an hour and 15. But we won't talk about that.
Meaning
Thank you,
Mr.
ma'am.
Patrolman.
Pretty straight.
All
Brenda,
right. Have a good one.
Rusty's out here too, so.
Oh, hey, I was gonna call you and have you come over, but I guess Russ is here, so never mind. Okay, bye. Is he out there?
I know never to ask
Rusty
that
is, I
question.
don't believe me, I've gone down
I
that
already
route.
asked someone else.
You did?
Not her,
No,
no.
I didn't
no,
either, I
no,
didn't
no,
have
no.
the guts to, so.
Never do that.
Are we okay to move on to landfill because we're waiting on road and bridge? Rust-Oleum, you are up next, sir, if you're available. And I always like a guy who brings a bag of money to a meeting. How are
You're
you?
leaving it off with?
Just for you guys.
Yeah, I thought so.
Under the table.
We got lots of places we could rat hole some money, don't we?
Boy,
That we need to, actually. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Good, thanks for coming in.
This is updated, so I finally got April on here. The other one wasn't
Okay,
sent
yeah,
out
sorry.
early. So that's through April.
Do you have it on your computer?
Not the updated one, but.
Okay. As long as I've got a copy of it. Did you email it, Brenda?
Better get it before you got it. It's a chance.
Rusty, when I look at this, does this include money received for the sale of the recyclables? This is just landfill.
Right, those are just tipping fees.
Got it. And recycling is what, about another 20,000 or so? 25,000?
Talking the cardboard, Gene?
A year.
Well,
I know it does this, and right now we're kind of
Yeah.
gonna have.
Last year it was,
in 2017, the grand total for the whole year was 24,000.
Okay.
The year before it was 9, you know, and then the year before it was 10 and 9 and 10,
Okay,
so.
so if I average, I'm gonna say about 15. Thank you.
Sure. So in other words, from 2013 to 2017, for cardboard, metal, and aluminum was 63,000.
Oh, got it.
Sizable sum.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going on at the landfill that we need to know about?
When?
What?
When?
What? Wind. Yeah, that is an issue, I agree.
And we're meeting this afternoon, 1:30,
1:30, yeah, the state will be there at 1:30 too.
CDPHE.
Right. To decide, but I'm sure they'll have their driller with them too and decide whether they want to drill 2 wells. I don't know if the inspection is gonna happen today too, but it would surprise me.
Good.
They did it last year at this time, he said.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. We got some pretty good response from them. Thank you for following up on that. That was good. Cool.
Yeah,
So,
it happened pretty quick for the state of Colorado.
good. Thank you. Wonder why March's commercial yards were up above them other averages. Any idea about that?
March, it's been busy.
2024.
Yeah, it's been busy. I think people, spring break and whatever, in March too. Everybody gets busy cleaning up.
And obviously, we're doing the cleanup day for the 2 municipalities, huh?
Yeah, that happens every year, and that usually goes pretty well. They've got that figured out now, pretty good, so that's not a big thing anymore.
Good. We don't get overwhelmed, huh? It's not.
No, because the trash trucks just go around and collect everything, they come out and dump, and that's pretty much it.
How many trucks you suppose?
2.
Really? That's it? Wow.
Yeah, one will pick up West Cliff, the other one picks up Silver Cliff, and they usually keep the appliances out there at Oak, so it goes pretty well.
Wow. I just would have guessed there was more trucks than that, so.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. We had-
Mostly tree stuff, or what is it?
They're just trying to get everybody to clean up around their place, lumber and just junk that's laying around. So it's, it helps, I guess.
So, can I rehash the discussion that we had before, Commissioner Fowler and Commissioner Kanda were here? We had talked at one time about putting the landfill and the recycling fees in a separate account for the county, so that when we're hit with this enormous fee to put in our new trenches, we know it could be upwards of $500,000, and we really don't have anything earmarked for that. I'm gonna recommend to my compadres here in just a moment that we do that, but I'd like to have your input before I even suggest it. Do you have any reason to or not to?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, especially the cardboard, metal, and aluminum. In 5 years, that's $63,867 that could be in that fund that we could be using right now.
Right. Well, I was looking, what I did, and that's why I asked the question about recycling a minute ago. You have 56,000, and I added roughly 15,000 on an average for the recycling. It came up to somewhere around 70,000 a year. Could be earmarked for landfill expansion and that kind of thing. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I think it's a great idea, because that's, it's money we could be using.
Russ and I talked about it some time ago too, and in fact, all that goes to the general fund. It's up to us, but if we want to put it there, or whether we keep it booked separately for a chance to use it.
And I realize it, but once it goes to the general fund, then it goes anywhere.
Well, that's what my point is.
This
We don't
way-
need to. We don't have to.
This way, I would like to earmark it
Have a-
strictly
sure.
for landfill
Yeah.
expansion,
That's the point.
problems, whatever landfill needs, so it could,
Yeah.
maintain self-sufficiency if potentially
It's
possible.
like saving it, and that's a good thing.
So,
Sam DiNardo mentioned that a few years back too.
yeah,
to
we
the
talked about
commissioners,
it many years.
That he thought that was a good idea back then too. Just nothing's happened with it, so. But I think it's a great idea. Then we'd have a little bit of that money in there too.
Let's do this. Let me move that we earmark beginning May 1st revenues received for landfill fees. What's the term for that? I used to just tipping fees. And any money that's earmarked comes in from the county for recycling in a separate account that will ask the treasurer to establish
Line item.
a line item for landfill use only.
Landfill expansion.
Expansion, or whatever we feel the landfill needs.
Okay. All right, thank you.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to establish let me finish this and we'll discuss
Then you can
this.
discuss.
Well, it's been moved and seconded to establish a line item in the budget for landfill expansion utilizing funds from tipping fees and recycling fees from the landfill. Discussion? Go ahead.
The tipping fees is actually money that's covering our budget.
It's above the cost is what we're trying to get. So anything above the cost of operating.
So, okay, yeah, so anything that's left over in
Right.
the budget at the end of the
Yeah, it
year
should be
goes to that
clarified.
fund. Okay, now that makes sense.
Yeah.
Is that
Yeah, you have to be able to
make
make
an
an
assumption
budget.
that you're
Yeah, that's
on
what I
that?
intend.
Because you like to be able to get enough money in
Sure.
to cover some of your budget for the year.
Right.
So, but if anything's left, it could go in that fund, which would be a great idea.
Yeah, so excess tipping fees over and above and beyond the
That's
operating.
the right way to do it.
How's the recycle guru about that?
That's what it should be.
Okay, good. Just wanna make sure.
You understand that mine is commodities market, and it goes up and down, and things are in flux right now.
Okay.
Not really sure what's all going on.
But you're on board with
Yeah,
running that into a line item so we can expand that landfill?
yeah.
Okay, good, thank you. Any other discussion, gentlemen?
In 2009 through 2017 plus, and that's the money that was turned back.
Right, I was
from the
looking at that
budgets.
earlier. Mhm.
And plus the solid cardboard and aluminum, so that comes up to 318, almost $319,000.
Yeah, that's
be in there.
That's a
Would've made a huge difference, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Right now, that's for sure, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
because, you're gonna have to look at upgrading equipment at some point, there's so many things.
Mhm.
It still can too, in effect, because we do have fund balances at the end of the year that have been banked as well, so something that we can look at as time goes on as well.
Any further discussion, comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay, motion carries. Donna will be coming in for finance, so we will speak to her about creating a line item in the budget in probably named landfill expansion.
Sure.
Good.
Yeah.
Comment?
No, the way you phrased it, it sounded like and so do you wanna,
Probably
can
better.
I get a
Yeah.
rephrasing of
I appreciate that, because you're right, I didn't phrase it as well as I hoped. Any excess revenue from landfill operations or recycling operations be put in an account earmarked for use by landfill, for future use by the landfill. And then we could just leave it open to whatever that would be. Landfill
Comfortable with
expansion.
that rewording?
Yeah.
There's no leftovers recycling, it is what it is, so it's
Recycling.
recycling fees
Recycling
and the
anything
excess
of the
tipping fees.
Right.
That language sounded reasonable. I'm good with
I think
that.
that works.
Okay, good. You okay, Kelly? Thank you for bringing that up. And then, go ahead, sir, because I lost my train
I'm
of
sorry,
thought.
I was just gonna bring up recycling. At a recycling meeting, we discussed the plastic bags and the dilemma we're having. Right after I went to an Upper Arkansas Area Council of Governments, and I mentioned our issue, and all the counties are having the same issue. So they're all working towards trying to find someone who can recycle plastic bags. I think it was Chaffey County, I'm not positive, one of them said that they're considering an ordinance to require businesses in their county to use the biodegradable bags that apparently are available at roughly the same cost. So I just wanted to update you on the discussions we've had on recycling to this point.
And I wanted to bring up something that was discussed at a meeting. I can't tell you which one exactly, and that was, and I'll reserve my opinions on it until you've had an opportunity to speak to it, about a county-wide trash pickup day. Waive the fees at the landfill. What's your take on that?
The only problem that I would have with it for everybody coming to a landfill is that our landfill is really not that size of a landfill. I think it's more of a safety issue to have that many people going to our landfill. Now, if we had a
direct traffic out there, maybe.
If we had a place, the courthouse or the park or somewhere where we could just have a roll-off container and a trash truck sitting there and have people come there and put it there in those containers, and then bulk disposal could bring it out. Something like that might work. I think it'd just be a safety issue for our landfill because it's not geared for that kind of influx of people.
My concern was if we got an overwhelming response to that, not just with traffic, but we could overwhelm our landfill. I mean, there are a lot of people in this county that could say, ooh, I'm taking
We
4 or
would
5
have to
pickup loads.
monitor it because we have rules we have to follow, and they can't just bring anything up.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to start a hazardous waste thing going on at the landfill, you know, because then we're all in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I looked at the economics of it and thought, wonder what kind of revenue we'd be passing up on a free day at the landfill, number one. And my other concern was if we don't do something, make some kind of an effort, how trashy is our county going to continue to grow with people not using the landfill or just using their backyards and not motivated to go pay to have that cleaned up. Somebody suggested, and I think it was at that health and safety committee meeting we had where it was brought up, maybe possibility of dividing the county up into maybe 4 quarters or sectors or whatever, and say this year we're going to do the southwest part of the county. You folks are welcome to maybe limit it to 1 pickup load of trash or something. I don't know. It's just discussion.
What do you charge for the metal that's dropped out there? Or do you just take it and use it for the scrap? You can push on the metal piece of this because there's a lot of metal trash around. And we'd make a lot of money, take it and bring it in. Just focus on a certain kind of trash.
I see Penrose is up to 130 a ton on this.
Yeah, they come up twice as much.
Yeah, I just turned a check in from DNSEO.
Oh, did you? I bet they were higher, huh?
140.
140.
American metal.
DNSEO is different. I'll bet American's
American's
higher than
higher.
that. Yeah, they're usually a little higher, but.
So for no more than filling that roll-off container up there, we got $438 for it, so. You know, that's just throwing metal in a roll-off and having them come and get it, and bring it empty, and.
So you can put a couple roll-offs in the county in different places and bring your metal.
And people will bring also.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to.
All right. Anything else, sir?
I don't think so. It's just
See you at 1:30.
wait for CDPHE to show up.
And you want to meet out there? Good. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sure that they're just gonna figure out where they're gonna put their wells, you know, so.
Okay. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
I'll see you there.
Alrighty. See you, Clint.
Are we all able to meet that meeting?
I'll be there for an hour. I'll stay an hour.
Okay. Yeah, I've got another meeting at 3, so I'll have to be. in and out of there.
We're ready for Louis' reports and so else.
Yeah, let's have Louis give his report.
I'm doing fine.
Give a citizen's report, Louis.
Citizens report.
Donna?
Yeah, or Jackie, either one, whoever's available.
Hey, you wanna come over now? Thanks. Bye.
Let's remember to ask her about that line item.
Okay, Donna's on her way.
Thank you. You said starting in May, and I did not include that in the motion, but I heard it, so.
How's the broadband going?
Good, we're kind of on a holding pattern, waiting for, our application to go to the feds, the, EDA grant.
Are we okay
Economic
within the
development.
timeline?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's 30 to 60 days out. 30 to 60 days is my understanding before they'll have their response to us, and then we'll forge ahead.
Maybe I misunderstood your question. I thought you said, are we okay with the timeline?
Don't we have a year to do it?
Yes.
Are we okay within that
But we
timeline?
haven't started drawing on it yet.
Yeah. Yeah, we're good. Yeah. Good morning. Come in.
Morning.
How are you?
How about you?
Doing fine, thank you. Good to see you. How's things in the financial world?
Fine.
Balanced, you wanna say
Right.
balanced.
Balanced. Actually, I was watching the live stream, and on the road and bridge and landfill, in order for us to segregate that money now midstream would actually cost us out of our operations for 2018. Because we're using that revenue to balance our own in the general fund.
That's a very good point.
And Sam DiNardo has many times thought that we should make the landfill a fund because they have revenue and they have inventory, their fuel and whatever they have. But I don't know what Rusty had estimated, 200,000 or 300,000. That would come right out of the general. I mean, we would not be
Not
able
for the
to
remaining of the year, that was over a period of 5 years or something.
on there. But we could absolutely, when we do the budget,
Except
make
why not?
landfill a fund itself, just like Road and Bridge, so that what they brought in, and it all just kept going. The only reason that Commissioners prior had not done that is because I think it can run on its own, but can the general fund run without?
Well, here's what I would
having that
recommend though,
revenue?
Donna, I understand what you're saying, but the way we could look at it is, it still stays in that line, that fund. We can still earmark it as, this is what is there, that we would use across the general fund anyway, if we wanted to, or not. At the end of the year, we can still get together and decide how to spread things, to make things balance. So you just leave it there, we're not gonna take it, and at least we have visibility on what was collected, which is.
I agree with Commissioner Kenny. If we just said general fund and then have a subcategory of general fund.
This is what's been
that
put
says
into it by.
landfill. However, if we needed to balance the budget, it's still in the general fund. It's just an earmark for that. Does that not make sense?
It does, and we'll have to get the treasures, because that's a separate,
Okay.
it's
We
like
can
how
do-
Conservation Trust used to be in there.
I think it's worth looking at and seeing how you can mechanic it. It's the mechanics of how we handle it in the budget.
And I guess that's where I was confused about the motion, because in the beginning, I thought your motion, you wanted to just, from May 1st, set that aside. But then I thought in the end, you meant anything left over at the end of the year would go.
No,
Because
it's-
I was worried about the same thing you were, but, and so that's,
it's,
Well, the motion actually was for any excess revenue that the landfill and recycling, well, recycle is not excess, but the excess landfill and the recycling fees would be earmarked for landfill purposes.
Anything
That
above their
didn't get
operating,
used
the
during the
landfill
year.
operating. You know, that's not to say you can't use that excess for things across the general fund, whatever it needs. That's what we've been doing.
But I fully understand your dilemma, because that money is going into the general fund that we use to budget
Right.
the fund. So if we left it in the general fund, but put a separate line item, this is the amount of the general fund that we have in landfill. If we need it for some other emergency operations, we take it.
Or it's not necessarily an emergency. It would be, I would look at it like it's money that we have available. We always, it's in the general fund anyway, and you spread it across there. And if there's a need for it, we can balance that need, whatever that need is. We may not elect to pay that. It depends on what the difference is, what caused it. Because remember, the budget is a budget. It's a guess. It's not, you don't know whether we're going to make it or
Right,
not.
we could have $250,000 coming back.
Right, and so, that's right, and so at least we know what we've earmarked for it, and that's what it brought in, and so we're just gonna bank it. And the next year we'll set up a line item to keep it in here, and we can always elect to take it out of it. We have that freedom. It's not like we're locking in forever.
But if we were to do a fund next year for that, it would be permanent, and that would be where we could always.
It's permanent, but we can always decide to take it out. We have that. That's what we do.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying.
I think I agree with what you're saying, and I'm looking here in 2017, his unused portion of his budget was $28,509. So you're saying we added that along with any other unused monies
Right back into the
back
fund
into the
balance
fund
for
balance for the next year. I agree with these two gentlemen that if we put it in there, doesn't mean we can't use it for other things if we need to. I think here was our spirit of that motion, was that we believe we need to get some funds earmarked for that landfill and not keep bleeding them off into the general fund.
And we will tighten our belt on the budget discussions in the fall to say, well, it would have been nice to go and do X, Y, and Z, but we're not going to do it because we have a bill that is due. We can't go to the taxpayer at the 6-year point and say, all right, we got a $200,000 bill, we're going to go dig this motor grave, dig the holes.
And what we learned last week was that the expansion of the landfill, which will fill 5.5 to 6 years, may be as much as $500 million, and we don't know where that's coming from. So our intent was to put some money earmarked for that expansion and hopefully get close to that when the time comes.
And our contingency fund now, at the end of this year, will have $100,000, and that would be a great way when we're in the budget talks to put that same $500,000 in there to garner another $50,000 or whatever our assessed valuation would be.
Yeah, we can talk about that.
The motion was to start that in May.
Can I go
this
grab
year.
Virginia and see if they can do that in their
Just see if they
books to
can
make
earmark
that?
it somehow, that they designate it as $10,000 this month.
Gentlemen, I'm feeling so good this morning, so if I can be excused.
Thank you.
I hope you feel better.
I was a little under the weather.
Well, thanks for coming in anyway.
You're looking a little peaked. Is
Yeah, not feeling too good.
it okay to shake your hand? Not contagious.
You never know.
That's right. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Appreciate your effort. Yeah, and I think this brings up a point too. It would be nice to have these two ladies come on in, guys. Hey, how are you? Oh, we're gonna get all the heavy hitters in here. Good.
Come on in, Susie.
I was just saying, as you guys walk in, it would
You're on the hot seat.
would be nice to have you three in here when we do start talking about monies. So we get some direction and opinions about what we think we'd like to do.
Okay.
So, did you
I
quickly bring her up to speed on what we're
think
talking
they
about?
were
or-
watching it as
Oh,
well.
we were, okay. So what's your take?
We have a road and bridge separate landfill. Why am I saying
I did too.
landfill?
Because they're graders and big
We have
tractors.
it separate in our books.
In your books, okay. But we do not have it separate in the budget, correct?
No, it's all
Okay.
in the general fund.
And that's what our motion was, to add that to the,
As long as she knows what
Budget.
they've allocated, we know what the general fund has in it that we wanted to keep out if we can. At the end of the year, we've got 50K banked and we can.
But that's revenue that's generated to cover
Right.
everything
right,
in general fund.
right.
So it's already in the budget to be paid out through general fund. So if you're gonna be holding back money, that needs to be as of budget next year.
Right.
Because it's already earmarked to be spent out this year,
That's
whether.
fine, but all we need to know is that then when we push it into the next year, we saved up 50K, let's say, that's the excess on, that you can,
On the
Keep track.
landfill?
Yeah.
You very seldom have anything left over on
Yeah,
that.
last
Right,
year
the
was
rest-
28,500, so.
that's what I'm saying, 28,000 bucks.
Now, is that counting what you come out like a capital outlay when he,
No, that is not
Yeah.
in there. Which that's why the fund would be great, because he would have his own capital outlay account as well. Or that could be.
Could
every
be,
year.
but the
Talk
intent
about the
is.
intent is to save up some money, so we're
Right.
not
Well,
digging deep.
I'm all for saving.
yeah, I'm a biggest one. I'd say.
Well, that's the intent,
So
correct, sir?
maybe you can help us. The intention of the motion was we have a big bill coming up for the landfill, and we have no money allocated for it.
In 6 years,
Right, it's down the road, but it's,
so that she
it's
understands.
very significant, yeah, thank you. It may be as much as $500,000, we don't really know exactly what it's gonna be. And we have nothing in the budget, and we're not saving for that, so the intent was landfill fees, recycling fees, some of that could be used for savings to get to that point, so in several years, we'll have a good dent in that amount we're gonna owe. So do you have can you guide us financially on a good way to handle this?
I'm not that part of the budget, I just receipt money,
Okay.
that's your guys' job.
We just-
And that's the key word,
Yes.
it's part of your budget, so when you set up the budget for 2019, it needs to be separated out and allocated for that
Which is what we'll discuss,
description
we'll put a line.
Right.
for Donna's books on that side. It's gonna hurt this year's budget if you tried to do something now.
Well,
Understand.
but we don't know how the budget's gonna smoke out yet. You're right, it could.
Exactly.
And it could be less or more, but we just wanna know if we got 28K that we knew was collected above what it cost him to operate out there, that's what we wanna put aside, if we can. If we can't, we say spend it on whatever the issue is at that moment, when we balance the budget.
Yeah, and see, nothing's ever rolled over in county general, it just pays the bills is what it does. And like I told you last month, my last 3 or 4 months, I'm taking out of PILT to pay the bills. So does that tell you that there's a lot of money left over? Now, maybe he did spend that much out of his, maybe he has 10,000 left out of his, but that does not roll
No, I
over.
understand that. We understand, we just wanna earmark what, that is a money generator, making it some money for us, that's all. And we're trying to figure out how to best use that for the future, that's all.
Yeah, and our books are different than her books, I mean, we're completely separate.
But those revenues, I get those from their ledger, and I do a journal entry, which gives us our balance sheet that shows where the general fund is.
That's right.
So
And
if we cooked
if
after
you
the
put that in a ledger under this landfill expansion line, it's still gonna show on the bottom line of your revenues, correct? It's just, we're just calling it something different rather than putting it in
That's
the general
true, but
fund.
for this year, those were operations money.
Well, we can still make a
Right.
subcategory though, Donna.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
If that's
absolutely.
causing you guys angst,
And
you
that way
know,
we see it,
can-
we know what went in, and what could be put in the general fund, and that's all we're asking for.
I mean, if we needed it, I wouldn't have a problem spending it on
I
whatever,
don't
but.
understand how to do that.
So I have to talk to Sam.
Because
I think
if it's not a
Sam is
fund,
the guy.
if it's not a fund, it doesn't have a carryover.
Right.
And so that's the only way that I can see that and we could absolutely make landfill be, because it is a running operation with a profit.
So is zoning.
So landfill today doesn't have its
The
own
airport's not.
line item.
They just have little, 10 little expense ones and 1 revenue.
and just like the
I
clerk
think,
has theirs.
we can get
and
together with Sam and discuss this, and let's see what he would recommend.
He will say the fund, because that's,
Well,
he
sure,
wanted
but
us to be the
but
fund.
what I mean is, how do you transition? Maybe that's a better word. We wanna keep track of it, we wanna know what we could have had this year. It will end up in the general fund, and we might be able to, if there is a fund balance across, that we could take that 28K and load it into this new line item and say, we got an advance.
And I could tell you, if I go to my books, what Rusty's expenditures to date are, and what his revenues are, and could tell you the
Sure.
difference.
So we just need the visibility. So that
Yeah.
may be the answer.
General fund, is funded by all the entities that make the money for the county, but it also pays for all the bills for everybody that don't make any money.
Right.
Sheriff's office
Sure.
don't make any
Sure.
money for
Understand.
this county. So landfill zoning, they fund those other entities.
Right.
Taking another hunk of the pie away from what is funding, you're taking it away from.
Right,
the
but
Yeah,
so-
sheriff,
and I guess we don't look at it like we're taking it away, we're just calling it a different name.
You're taking it away.
Okay,
And-
if you have the whole pie, and everyone's paying for this whole pie, you take out a slice of that pie.
Right.
And we decide not to pay something else, if we can make that decision, we can say, we're not gonna fund the economic development line, or we're not gonna fund,
Well,
something else during that
the
year.
budget.
Yeah. And I don't look at it as taking that out.
That's right.
I look at it as calling that slice something different than general
Well,
fund.
you
It's
can
still
call-
in the pie, right?
You can call it anything you
Right,
want, but if
okay.
that part of that pie is
Right.
paying all the bills,
Right,
You're
and if it
taking
eats
away
that all
from-
up, then we don't have 28K that we can say, that's the end.
And we wouldn't take it away. We'd use
We
it to
just
spend the
gonna-
bills, to pay the bills
Right.
if we needed to.
Or we
I think
roll
this
it
is-
over into the next year and bank it in savings, and when we make the budget, we're gonna pretend that doesn't exist.
What do you think, Jay? Is that your,
Yeah, I see the issue, and I see the problem. The problem is that we earmarked it for general funds for this year. We have a balanced budget. It needs to stay in general fund.
Sure.
I get that. I like the idea of earmarking how much of the general fund was from landfill. Now, I agree with you completely. There are areas that have a positive revenue stream, and maybe someday down the road, we're gonna say, we'll handle that separately also. But we have a need for landfill, so my feeling is, let's leave it in the general fund, but I really like Donna's idea of keeping track of how much that is, so we can determine at the end of the year, rather than say, you know, we have an excess of X amount of dollars, let's spend it on a new truck or
Right,
whatever.
if we're not
We can
going,
say,
we're gonna
we're
say
not-
that
we're gonna
28K,
save that.
that's right.
So, yeah, I mean, I agree with what these ladies are saying, and I think they're absolutely right, and that's probably the way, I feel that's the proper way to handle it, because it is part of the general fund. We can't go changing that right now, we have a balanced budget.
At the end of the year, we may have it left over.
That's right. And at the end of the year, rather than spend that excess money on other projects, we'll know how much was landfill, we're gonna continue to bank that in landfill. That would be my suggestion, so that would work, wouldn't it?
makes
Talk
sense?
to Sam.
It's fine?
Need to talk to Sam.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, we'll work.
What do you think?
Okay, you guys make the
Okay.
policy. I just can't make that happen in our set of books with the general fund.
I got you. I fully understand that. I fully understand that. Okay, so let's
Good.
leave it at that.
Okay, thank you.
So are you gonna change your motion?
We're gonna talk about that. Thank you, ladies, appreciate it.
So the motion is that we're gonna earmark it, then that's okay, because then she can figure out how we're earmarking it. Doesn't say we're gonna
Yeah, but
keep it
he
in.
said for landfill use only, if that's how it translates.
I don't know
in
how
the
to read the
wording.
Okay,
motion.
what does the motion say? Because I'm gonna amend the motion to comply with what we've just had this further discussion about.
So the way that I've got it is starting May first, put excess revenue from landfill and recycling, set aside in a fund for future landfill expansion.
That obviously needs to change.
parliamentary wise, I would recommend, rescinding your motion. You really can't amend it correctly.
Well, we've already approved it, so we
That's
probably
correct.
need to rescind it.
That's what I'm saying,
what
it's
you
already
said.
been approved,
So I'll move that I rescind the motion I made earlier regarding landfill and earmarking funds beginning May 1st of excess funds. So let's vote on that, and I'll go ahead and I'll remake the motion
second
to
that
track
motion.
it. Would that work?
Yeah, I'll second the motion. Typically, this is the great thing about it, the motion to rescind requires a 2/3 majority vote. That's not a problem if 2 out of 3 people vote here to rescind your motion, so it's not like we have 15 or 16 people to vote on, so. It's not a debatable motion, by the way. All in favor of rescinding the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. That motion has been rescinded.
So let me ask you a question. Do I even need a motion just to ask Ms. Hobby to
I don't think so.
earmark that separately, and then when it
Because
comes?
it is earmarked, right at this
I
moment in
recognize,
time.
that's why I'm thinking it doesn't need one, because I heard you say
We
that
just
you
want
could
the
tell us at this
visibility
moment,
when you give us a budget
you could
report.
tell us at this moment how much excess or deficit there is, and at the end of the year, we can come back and then you can
Decide
tell
what to
us
do.
there is excess amount, and we're gonna say, fine, now let's set this fund up, or however you wanna handle it, and put that money in there, and it'll not be part of the general fund. So, I don't think there needs another motion. I think we just let it stop right there, and we all know where we wanna be on landfill for 2019. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I guess, and we can continue to track where that's at for 2018, including the recycle
Well, and I
revenue.
thought, speaking to what Bill said, that I could go back maybe 2016, 17, and then 18, and let's say they have 30,000 each year. So when we budget for 19, he would
You can
say
get the right
they had an
numbers.
excess of 90,000
Right.
over, okay,
Yeah.
and so that we are automatically budgeting back for the landfill for the expansion.
Correct.
And if anyone says, well, why would you add that extra 100? Because they have earned it.
Right.
And then
Yeah,
that
we
way
could
there
do
would be
that
no.
because that money exists today.
Exactly.
It
And
is,
it's-
it is in the
So I will go on the record.
Right. And so that way we could make it happen
Yeah.
and not make a fund, but we could do it.
So I would like to just go on the record and say, I've learned a very valuable lesson this morning, and that is, when it comes to, no, and I'm putting this on the record, because it's very important, that when it comes to financing and budgeting, we need our budgeting and finance people sitting with us when we make decisions. So I appreciate what you've said, I appreciate what the Treasury Department said, and I've learned an important lesson, but I will do my best to keep doing that in the future.
So in the future, we can make statements that would say, our intent is this, let's get our experts together and have them recommend to us how to handle it. That's how you would do it in a meeting like this, so we're not wasting everybody's time.
Exactly.
And just a point of clarification for me, I just sit here and take the notes.
I understand.
But when you made that motion, I thought, oh God, where's Donna? We need Donna. Do you guys mind if I say?
That's what you
we
want.
need
If you open
Donna?
your mouth.
Okay.
Part of the team.
Because I don't wanna step on toes
Right.
or
No, you
anything.
wouldn't.
I just,
My feeling is, I just want it right.
right.
And look, do I look foolish for having made that motion and rescinding it? Maybe. I don't know.
I
But the
just-
bottom line, that's why I went into it's a learning process.
And it helps us, we need to move these meetings along more streamlined, that's what Tom's objective is, our objective, so
I
we
personally,
can ask for
I can't
help.
speak for them, I would love to hear what you have to say, what you and anybody else, if they have a better idea. I've mentioned this before, my father, may rest in peace, used to say, 2 heads are better than one. No matter how dumb the 2 people are, 2 of them are gonna come up with a, and I don't mean anybody who's dumb. I'm just saying, what I meant by that was, more discussion, better real solutions. So please, don't ever hesitate, anybody, not that there's a big crowd here.
Okay, what else you got?
That, mine is normal, so.
Thank you
that-
very much.
I told Rusty in the hall, though, that he was gonna make my report a lot more exciting.
That's good.
And my question was, you'll be able to track recycling separate from landfill?
No, Rusty does not split that out. I think he has it on his report.
do it.
Right.
Yeah, that he has it, but.
But you don't get that
no,
split.
I
So
don't.
you just need to make work him and work out.
Well,
Either.
yeah, I don't know that it would have to be split out because eventually it's gonna go into the same line item anyway as revenue stream.
But she needs to, for us to see it, she has to report it, she has to get it
And I-
from me.
and-
Yeah, or we can see it from Rusty's report, either
Or we
one.
can do that.
And his receipts may very well say this and recycling, I'm not
Right.
sure. Because usually it's 4 to 6 checks a year from Angel Fish Avenue.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thanks for your insight.
Tell those ladies we apologize.
I'm glad you're watching TV
I
too.
know, I thought, oh, jeez.
Between Flickr and our live stream, okay.
All right, let's move on, I think.
So Gary,
We're ready for Road and Bridge report. Welcome, sir. How are you this morning? Thank you for coming in, are you?
Pour circulation in your hands again.
We're trying to do some work out here on 255 and dealing with pretty fast traffic.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, one gentleman that he's doing 50 plus miles an hour. The speed limit through the area where we was working at was only 30. So.
Really?
Anyway, I gave him the slow down sign and he slams on his brakes and then we had him work.
No way.
Yeah. And I told him, I said, you know, we need you guys to cooperate with us to slow down.
We want this road to be good.
I
There's a
don't,
reason for those speed limits.
and I'm not asking you to give us his name. Do you know who it was?
No, I've never seen the gentleman before. He was a younger guy, probably.
I authorize you to carry a gun now.
You
I wish I
know,
could carry a radar gun and issue tickets. I wish I could.
it brings a point. I had a discussion this last week with somebody about, they point blank asked me, who is in charge of setting the speed limits and putting up the signs?
That's pretty much it.
Do you determine the speed limits, or does the sheriff's office, does he have any part of that, or is it a joint deal?
No, they just rely on us to set the speed limits based
No, and I'll
on
tell you-
common sense and variable things.
Road conditions?
Road conditions, curves, hills.
Sure.
And then the other piece that goes into that, I got a call. You got it too. Sarah Shields had a problem out there. So working with the people where they are, where they see the speed going X, Y, and Z, then we can take a look where the speed limit we did that, what it was before that hill and what it is after it, and said, well, maybe we get another one in to start bringing it down. So it's a combination, and he's the guy that's.
Well, I think maybe I should put up more speed limit signs. You know, there's a 5 or 6 mile stretch in there, and I think we got speed limits on each end. You know, it's a county line, and
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea.
and where the speed slope, when you leave the chip out here on 255, from that point to the bottom of Reed Hill, it's about 40 miles an hour. Well, up Reed Hill, it slows down to 25. Well, when you get to the top of Reed Hill, because of the curves and the blind, intersections, curves and things like that, it slows down to 30 miles an hour, and it stays at 30 clear to the county line. And that's plenty fast because of the curves and things, you know, it's a safety issue. So.
Well, I would guess the average speed is probably 50 or over.
Man, they fly through there. Oh, it's frustrating. And we've got our roadwork signs up, but that doesn't make any difference with a lot of them. So, and that's one of the reasons the roads are in such poor shape too. One of the reasons is because of the dry conditions and then people drive as fast as
A couple times though, it might not hurt to just have a talk to Shannon and see if he'll put a deputy out there when you start on something like that. All you need to do is stop about 2 or 3 guys and the word gets around.
They're pretty good about that.
Yeah.
When we were putting the road base right off the chip here about 6 weeks ago, they had it was the undersheriff.
Chris
Yeah, Chris was out there.
Yeah.
He stopped several people, so and it helped.
Yeah, I would say when you, sorry, go ahead, I've spoken. I was just gonna say, I would encourage you to contact Sheriff Byerly and just say, man, we're out here and these guys are just hammering us. If he can, he can, if he can't, he can't, but I would share a little of your frustration with him. I think that'd be reasonable.
Work it ahead of time too, when you know you're setting up a new project.
Right.
Just get him out there.
Mm-hmm.
You can.
Yeah. If they've got time, they'll come out and they'll help us out.
So I did tell them about 255. We all got the letter, and we've been working 255 before. I went out and drove it. You've been out there before, and I told them that you had priorities. Like your report says, you had 100 roads you were doing. Whatever it is, they're all there.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know, with this lack of moisture, it's catching up with us. We put new road base right off the chip on 255 here about 6 or 8 weeks ago. It's already starting to deteriorate, and primarily because of the lack of moisture. I think that,
Means you either water it a lot or you put a mag chloride or whatever.
I think we're gonna have to invest in some mag chloride, put a sealer on some of these roads. Otherwise, we're gonna continue to receive the complaints, and we're just not gonna be able to keep up. Mother Nature's not helping us out. I've talked to some of the locals, and they said drives they've seen it in 15 or 20 years. So.
Yeah.
I mean, between the increase in traffic, the speed, and the dry conditions, you know, the lack of moisture, it's not gonna battle. It gets kind of frustrating, but. You know, I was thinking about it last night. You know, we had a line item for $300,000 that was supposed to go towards asphalt and chip seal. We may have to take half of that money and invest in some mag chloride and just forget the chip seal.
You gotta make trades.
Yeah. Well, I think under the circumstances, due to the mild winter and lack of snow, I think that's probably.
We take some of the balance of that 800K maybe.
Yeah, I could talk to Donna about that. I don't know if that's possible or not, since it wasn't budgeted for this year.
It was I thought it was in the reserve.
Well, but if you don't budget for it, I don't know that you can get your hands on it and use it. I'll just have to talk to her about it. Let's see. It'd be great if we could, but yeah, I think the mag chloride's the answer. Otherwise,
Yeah, I had a discussion with somebody that had some experience on it. I can't tell you how much, and they're concerned about mag chloride. I've been around it some in the mining industry. If we do not get those washboards completely cut out of there, are we going to beat that mag chloride out just as quick as we would anything else?
no, it'll hold up even if we don't get them completely cut out. But the thing of it is, we generally do.
The idea is to get them cut out.
The only time we really have an issue with not being able to get them cut out is usually in the winter time when there's frost on the roads. But this time of year, we're not dealing with frost. We can put enough moisture on them, we can cut deep enough that we'll get them cut out. And then once we get that material laid back out and packed back in, I think once we put that mag chloride on there, it's going to be real beneficial, and I think it's going to help. It eliminates us from having to go back nearly as often and put that stuff on. So.
How many miles would you think about initially?
Well, last night I was thinking probably 6 or 7 on 255. That'll take us from the county line up to where we put new road base. And then usually
protect that new road base a little bit. So.
Yeah, that's the thing. We need to put some on that new road base too. Otherwise, here in another 12 months, it's going to be completely shot. And then mag chloride will prevent that from happening. I would say probably about 12 miles, and usually runs between 6 and 6,500 per mile. So I mean, it's costly, but.
And talk to us about the corrosiveness of mag chloride.
That I don't know anything about. I'd have to talk to the vendor.
I asked a question one time about that, and you take a look at Fremont County, they got a lot of it down.
Mm-hmm.
And they claim it, you know, back in the old days, it was like you putting salt on the road and it was corrosive. They claim this combination is not.
Yeah, it may not be. I don't have that much experience.
We'll have to ask, but I think it is.
The alternative is Durabland, and I don't think it's nearly as corrosive if the mag chloride is, but it's a far more expensive product. The mag chloride is going to run about 90 cents per gallon, and Durabland's about $1.35, so it's quite a bit more expensive.
Yeah, I just, from experience, the corrosiveness, of course, happened for us when those roads got wet. In the gold mining industry, 1/10 of an inch of rain would shut down the entire mine because those mag chloride roads got so slick you couldn't drive on them. I don't anticipate that in our county because those haul roads were as smooth as this table. We're not going to be anywhere near there. I mean, there could be some slick spots, but...
Yeah, I've been on Fremont County's mag chloride roads, and I didn't see where they got slick. And, you know, as far as the corrosiveness, I would just have to check on that.
Okay.
CDOT has a whole article about corrosiveness of magnesium chloride and sodium chloride. So they have a whole dissipation on whether it is or not. I didn't know whether or not, I just said it does.
Good. Well, let's get to the fun part as soon as we can, man. I'm dying to know. I mean, if you have other things, let's just deal with it, no problem, but.
This is the bid that I got from White's Excavation. This is from Seifert's. That one. That one's from.
You're talking Hermit now.
And
Yeah.
our attorney left ill. He would normally be doing this, so I would think we're fine to open these. Let's do them one at a time. Don't you? Go ahead, receipt date on it? When did you get it?
It's,
Is it written on the
well,
envelope?
you could give it for today, because the one we got is not on.
Well, they had to be turned in by, okay. Fine.
So we received this today? This is-
Well, no, we did, but we had a deadline for Gary to have it
Yeah,
submitted to
so
him,
when did you
so,
get it?
I don't know.
They were prior to 5 o'clock
Okay.
last night.
Okay, good.
I think Freddie, Fred White emailed his to me maybe yesterday.
Yeah, there's no
morning.
date on here.
Okay, good, thank you.
He was actually on the road when he emailed it to us.
So are we gonna read the,
For the record, let me just say, we're opening bids for the Hermit Bridge Culvert project. They were due by 5 o'clock, on April 30th, and, obviously, Mr. Hyde's given us 3 bids, so we're gonna open those, so.
are they all, he makes a note here, Custer County provide all materials for the project. And what are the materials?
The road base, the backfill material.
So you didn't spec that out. So you want a price on, you want
Yeah, you can,
And say who it's from.
this is from White's, White's
Say-
excavators of, I guess that's called, just COI, it says.
Yeah, I didn't look at it. I looked at the.
White's Excavators.
Yeah, White
White
excavators, you read that?
excavation.
COI.
Oh, that's Colorado Inc., I bet that is.
Okay. Okay, that was, you want the price? 29,800.
Are we gonna be able to compare apples and apples, for example, one may be different what they're
Yeah.
offering each one?
That's why I asked about this material, so that should be consistent across all of them.
They are. I spoke with each one of the individuals that submitted these bids, and they're aware of what we're supplying and what we're not supplying. And they submitted their bids based on that, so.
all right, and this bid is from Seifert Enterprises for the Hermit Road Bridge replacement bid, received 4/25/18. To Custer County Road and Bridge, Grape Creek Hermit Road Culvert Replacement Project. No import material, no export material, no testing, no culvert setting, no winter conditions, no fence removal or relocation, no utility relocation, sales tax exempt, government agency, for a total of $15,000. And I thought I can pull it up, but I thought the RFP called for setting the.
Yeah, this one
culvert
says
in.
install, temporary culvert, this says remove.
Well, the temporary culvert's just gonna be a carrying water
Bypass,
around.
yeah.
Right,
And as far as the culvert, they're not gonna need to set it, we're gonna build it in.
You're gonna build it in place, so there's no resetting.
Yeah.
Now, there's a backfill and compaction, they have that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they
okay, no, maybe you have to bring me up to speed here. No culvert setting to me means they're not gonna set the new culvert.
That's right.
do. Right, they're
Who's
not,
going to?
we're gonna
We're gonna
build
build
it
it in
in the
place.
stream bed in its
Okay,
place.
so the county's gonna set it.
Yeah,
I
well,
realize it's not one whole piece, but you're gonna set the pieces in there,
correct, yeah.
so these bids would not include that. Oh,
We're gonna supply manpower to put the culvert together.
So let me, we'll compare apples to apples. This is, he's got a pull-on fee in here.
Yeah, that's mobilization.
right? And then there's clearing and removal of shrubs, there's removal of the pavement, there's install temporary culvert, which is pass around, there's removal of existing head walls and culverts, getting the junk out of the way. And preparing the site, backfill and compaction. What's the backfill and compaction? Before you set yours?
After.
Or after?
Right. Once
So
the
that's
culvert-
on each one,
Yes.
once you got it in. Okay. Final grade and surface prep. Similar.
I know on Kent's with Cypress, he didn't actually have a line item on there for the asphalt removal, and then also the temporary culvert installation, so I called him up and I said, does that bid include that? And he said it does. So I just wanted to make sure.
Okay, and then the county is going to overlay new asphalt, that's not in this bid.
Right, we'll put that back in ourselves.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, the third bid is from Langston Concrete Inc. from Florence, Colorado. Received 4/30/18, 11:30 a.m. There's a memo here, and I think this is just the bid sheet. Okay, so I'll read what he has. Hermit Road Culvert Replacement Project bidding document, basis of bid for the Hermit Road Replacement Project. Bidder will perform all work specified or indicated in the bid documents in accordance with the terms and conditions of the bidding documents for the following prices. I'm going to tell you the bottom line is $33,500, but I can tell you where he came from. Mobilization and demobilization, $2,000. Clear and removal of shrubs, $1,000. Removal of pavement, $1,000. Install temporary culvert, $2,500. Removal of existing head walls and culverts, $10,000. Prepare site, $3,000. Backfill and compaction, $12,000. And final grade and surface prep, $2,000. I didn't add it up, but he says that adds up to $33,500.
And those line items are very comparable to this. I'm not sure they're comparable to that.
Other than his verbal.
Right, yeah. Now,
That's a lot of difference.
he said he would include installing a temporary culvert. I think he dewatering, he's got in there for 2,000.
If it's necessary.
That's not, the temporary culvert wouldn't be considered his dewatering.
Sounds like it's
No, I don't think so.
drainage.
I think that's if he felt like we needed to pump water out the side of the culvert to divert the water.
Typically, I would guess, yeah.
Quite a difference, yeah. It's the beach bonds, and the full-on fees, not that much difference. Clearing shrubs is quite a bit different, 2,000. Things he can do it.
Pardon?
How'd you feel about him?
Oh, I think that Cypress is definitely the way to go.
And you're comfortable, because they don't really compare here, you're comfortable that the work would be comparable, the scope and sequence here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Comparable.
The good news is, once he tears it down, he's gotta do it. That's his bid.
I have a question about whoever does the project. Is there gonna be concrete that's gonna have to be put in by any of these companies?
No, it's all aluminum, box culvert, so there's no concrete.
Okay.
It's the header.
So,
The head wall is aluminum. There's a toe wall, head wall, wing walls, they're all aluminum.
is there a way to, and I really don't understand road bridge very well, I will do my best here. How do we know whoever was awarded this project is doing the work? I mean, are you gonna oversee it to make sure that the culvert they put in is, I mean, you're gonna put in, that's not part of this, so you'll be choosing that, I don't have to worry about if that's a substandard culvert or something like that? Okay. So whoever gets this bid, we really don't need to worry about cutting corners, doing something nefarious or something like that?
No, I'll
Okay.
make sure,
That's fine.
with me being on site,
Okay, and
sometimes,
I'm not disparaging anybody here, I'm
Right.
just asking the question because I wanna
Sure.
make sure we get our biggest bang for our buck.
you know,
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously Gary's gonna be the project manager on this.
Right. Well, I've heard before that some cement had been used previously by some companies that didn't quite meet industry spec, and I'm not disparaging anybody here. I just wanna make sure we don't have those kind of issues.
right, we won't.
Okay, I'm fine, I don't know what the issues are. Alright, so,
We've looked at all of them and give you the
yeah, my
opportunity to do the
question would
same.
be, obviously Langston's out of the ballpark because they're way high, apparently. And if these two are comparable, it looks to me like Cypher's half the cost of whatever this company is, Lights. I mean, and if you're comfortable, I know they have an excellent reputation in the county.
I've had
Sort of
someone
makes
out there
sense to
on
me.
site.
I'm good with it.
Discussed with him the project, he's well aware of everything that entails, so.
He's got a big excavator, he can pull out the weeds quick.
And you guys can go in and get final grade on that creek bed and get that prepped and ready to set
That's
your.
part of their bid.
Yeah, that's part of the bid, the contractor's gonna take care of that.
They're gonna compact it.
Mhm.
All right, I move we accept the bid from Cypress for $15,000.
I'll second. Is it exactly 15?
No, it's 15.
No,
Why
15.
don't you read the correct
Read
number?
It's
exactly.
15,000.
Yeah, it is 15.
It's been moved and seconded to award the Great Creek Hermit Bridge Culvert Project to Cipher Enterprises. Is there further discussion?
I feel that's pretty reasonable, actually, and not a bad bid for what the job is. I don't know what the other guys were bidding on with more tree removal or whatever the extra there.
He was
Removal
encouraged to,
high.
well, in fact, I know Mike looked at the site, so there's hardly gonna be any.
Not much to do there.
No, as far as
So I
brush
think,
removal, and I think Kent.
pretty
recognized
reasonable. Logically, I don't think it's an underbid. I don't think he's buying into anything.
I was gonna try to look up our DOLA grant application to see what we'd actually budgeted for this work. Do you happen to remember?
It was like 70, wasn't it?
On the construction part of it itself, I was, well, I have to look at that. I know the total dollar grant was 140.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it was
up
140.
to-
We had to match it.
Yes, well, yeah.
300 some odd thousand. I mean, it was getting out of hand.
Well, yeah, we didn't go over the seat on it. Anticipated it costing in excess of $300,000. That's one of the reasons we decided not to go with it.
Ourselves.
And in fact, one of the contractors on that, he didn't submit a bid for it, and he had touched on that, how a lot of times when you go with a CDOT grant, there's a lot of money that's.
I mean, just because I'm bewildered. Same project, same scope. Why is one 15,000, one's 33,000? I mean, is one gold plated? I mean, why would it be so much higher to do the same amount of work? I'm just curious.
Well, I can give you an example. We built a bridge one time, and the total cost of the bridge replacement project was, and it was a structure of about 140 feet long. One of the things that we had to do on that project was do erosion control, and that erosion control itself, KDOT required this, and that in itself was $30,000. It was during a drought year, we weren't getting much rain. It was something we had to do for the project. It served no purpose whatsoever because we only got maybe an inch of rain during the whole project. So that's one of the things that KDOT requires. Whereas this time, you know, if we're not using the CDOT grant, we don't have to do erosion control.
No, that wasn't really a question, but I've been asking.
Let me attempt to answer it because I've got a couple things here. For example, and I'll compare Cypher, it's just a motion to accept that. Removal of the existing head wall and culvert from one of the other bidders was $10,000. excavate existing culvert and head walls, 3,500. So there's 6,500 difference right there. Install compacted fill. One of the bidders was 12,000. Cypress 8,000. So between just those two items, we're looking at 11,500.
Is that what you were wondering, Jay? What the
Yeah,
why the
I'll tell you.
difference in
I
these
was just
prices?
curious, why was
Such a
one
disparity.
say for the same amount of work, why is one charging 12,000, one charging
There's-
6,000?
From my experience
Yeah.
on that, and these road jobs, I've done that, as well as from the government bidding process that I've gone through in the Air Force. A lot of times somebody doesn't necessarily want to do it, and they say, fine, if I'm in the competitive range, and this is what I want, so they don't gold plate it, but they say it does. One of the examples here, I don't know why, the pull-on charge is quite a bit different between all three of them. Seifert, he's close, his charge is $500, so that's a logical one, and what's his, $2,000, it's $1,500 difference. So in some ways, you're making up some money with the pull-on charge. That's what White did, and he's coming in from Rosita, and I don't think it'll cost that much. The other one is, White's equipment may not be, he doesn't have the big excavator, possibly. I know he's got some backhoe and stuff, and so he's taking him more time. He's doing it by the hourly rate. Seifert's got a pretty big operation, he'll scoop it right out of there. So those are some of the reasons. And then if they want to get competitive, if he really wants the job, he could have sharpened his pencil a little tighter, but I think he would have been underhanded and undermanned because not underhanded, but undermanned. White did. Cypress got pretty good routine and stuff.
So one last question, and I'm gonna shut up, if possible. Once they make this bid, can they come back later and say to you, well, what, is there a likelihood they come back later to you and say, look, we didn't anticipate X, Y, and Z, and that we're gonna charge you a bunch more money? Or is this a turnkey operation, they know what we're gonna do, that's the fee, and you can't come back and ask for more money later? I'm just concerned that if one's so much lower, are we gonna get hit for additional expenses?
When that happens, you can buy into it and make a big mistake, and then the government is held liable. You can still hold them to it, but if they can't perform, you're forced into trickling in the money to
Well,
catch them up.
there is always the unforeseen. Say, for instance, we get started on a project, we had a big rain, and it wipes out.
That's not really, I understand, any unforeseeable is
Right.
unforeseeable.
Okay.
But can they come back later and say, look, we underbid this part of it, and
No.
we'd like to, okay, that's all I want to know.
Okay, this is it.
Yeah, I understand things can change.
Yeah, no, this is the thing submitted. So.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, and but your question's right on the money,
Mm.
whether it's building a building, or building a road, or building a bridge. That's where this gentleman is gonna have to protect our interests, because I guarantee you, anybody in business will make a run at you and say, you know what, we're gonna stick to our bid, but we're not compacting to 103% compaction, we're compacting to 80.
Yes.
Or we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that. That's where our manager's gonna step in
And
and
that's
say,
where my brain is
Yeah.
going with Wetmore.
Yeah.
The overruns there were horrendous.
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah, no, they would, there's two ways for them to get around meeting their bid. If they find out they're underwater, they're gonna try to cut corners, there's no question about that. That's where our project manager would say, hold the phone, boys, this is what the specs call for. I know we don't have a lot of
That's
specs
what
on
we
this.
got it at our office.
Good.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I know we don't have a lot of specs for our material on this job, but, we're providing the backfill material.
Correct, yeah.
So typically they would say, instead of
And they're gonna do
bringing in something at $6 a yard, they're gonna go find some cheaper materials. I mean, they'll do whatever they can to try to cut corners. I'm not accusing these three,
And I
but in the
certainly
industry.
trust
So that's
our
where,
supervisor.
And I did talk to one of the contractors, I won't mention his name, but I asked him about a turnkey job, and it was well over $100,000.
Yeah, sure.
So that's one of the reasons.
See, we're making money because we can do it, you know, at our
Correct.
rates.
Yes, we're gonna save a lot of money.
And if you think about it, it's pretty simple. They're pulling the darn culvert out, they're diverting the water, and I'm surprised they got a $30,000 bid on that. That's
It is a
crazy.
pretty simple project.
yeah,
Very simple.
Just the removal of the culverts and the head walls,
right.
we're looking at a half a day probably.
Yeah, it's gonna take.
I've done my best, nothing this, I realize it's only gonna take 4 or 5 hours, and we're gonna have that out of there, so.
And then to answer the other part of your question, why there's so much disparity, and I was surprised that there was. Sometimes bidders, as Bill kinda indicated, if they're gonna do the job, man, they're gonna make a ton of money on it, or it's not worth it. So it's hard for us to
Langston's
put
gotta
words in their
relocate
mouths,
up here, it's
but,
a tough one.
so if you are comfortable with those, Gary, I would like to hear your recommendation as part of the debate on this motion.
Oh, I definitely, after talking to Kent and all three of them as far as that goes, I would go with the low bid. I don't doubt that any one of them can handle the job easily. They've done far more difficult projects than this. So I don't have any reservations about going with Cypress.
And do you anticipate the mow, they'll stay there while you're assembling the box culvert? They're not gonna mow off and come back?
The only reason they might stay there is if we don't have enough reach with our backhoe to set the plates in place for this culvert. And I did discuss that with them also, so there might be a need for that excavator to stay there. So
It's in, they've got their mobilization and their demob on there, so if they decide to take their machine and go to another job, that's on them.
Correct, yeah. And I did stretch to all three of them. It's important we get this done as quickly as possible. So they all realize that. So they can't take their excavator and leave and say, we'll be back in 4 weeks.
No, we'll make an appointment with my secretary here.
Yeah, and then there is a lot of fancy construction terms about addressing those things. Are they gonna have to, and again, I think verbally, from work from Custer County, they're not in Boulder or Denver County. But their sequence of work, they're gonna stay on the job and.
And us ourselves, I haven't talked to the guys, but we're not going to work Monday through Thursday. We're going to work Monday through Friday and get this project done as quickly as possible.
Okay. Any further discussion? Comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed nay. The motion carries. Let the record show that we have accepted the Seifert Enterprises bid in the amount of $15,000 for the work specified in the RFP.
I didn't know if you wanted to look at these. These are just our safety reviews.
Oh, okay, yeah. And I wanted to compliment you on that. I attended one of his Monday morning safety meetings. I would encourage us commissioners to do that whenever possible. I don't think it's a threat or makes anybody uncomfortable, is it, when we come in there and I just commend you on doing that. I think that's huge. I think the guys were pretty well responsive to that.
You got a couple guys that are not working?
On occasion. Oh, well, one of them has been off for a little while. He's had a illness he's dealing with, and then
same two are missing the meat. I just was curious.
What time on Monday?
we started this
Yeah.
And where do you hold it?
Here at our break room in town here at the Ministry Department.
Right through the main office there. The other thing I wanted to mention was, it just happened that I sat in that safety meeting, and Gary not only does a safety meeting, but then he also has a discussion about issues or compliments or whatever, and Gary mentioned that some of the blade operators were cutting the shoulders on a road down below the driveway of a customer or resident. And so they talked about that, and I think everybody was fine with doing that. And actually Gary showed some slides of his pickup pulled up against that berm, if you will, the difference, to show the difference in elevation. Well, night before last, I was at the speech contest at the Saddle Club grounds for the 4-H. And one of their judges came up to me and said, hey, I just want to tell you that your county road and bridge did a great job of coming back and fixing my driveway. He said, I never called him, or at least I think he said he didn't call you, but, and I said, well, interesting enough, and so I relayed that story to him about you're having that conversation with your employees. And I said, I'm sure Gary drove out to the site because he had taken some pictures, and he said, you know what? Does he drive a red pickup? And I said, yes. And he said, well, I saw somebody down there and I thought maybe that's what they were doing. So it happened to be the same guy and the same driveway that you showed on your slides. But he was very thankful and impressed that you came back out and took care of that. So amongst all the complaints and the squalling, it's nice to hear once in a while that
I think overall, we've had more compliments lately than complaints. That dam road was a good example.
Oh, okay.
what is that road number down there, Gary? You remember below the dam?
Oh, that's 220.
220. They were really upset about that road initially, but boy, they sure loved it.
Yeah, and I drove it once we got it worked on, and it's nice.
Yeah,
But it should stay that way for a good long time.
They were
In the old days,
I sent you the note on
that was a great place to pick up tools, is around that corner going up the hill, because they would always vibrate off of somebody's flatbed, so.
Yeah, I've seen spots like that.
Yeah, yeah.
We used to walk the ditch and find tools and stuff.
The other request I would have, and it's probably in the works, will you please notify those unsuccessful bidders and let them know?
I did tell them.
Good, thank you, appreciate it. Okay, anything else, sir?
The water truck
Water
we're
trucks,
having
yeah.
put together in Sterling right now. It's probably going to be done by the end of the week, and we should be able, hopefully, we'll be able to get our hands on it by sometime next week. So,
Okay.
I did talk to Wendy at First State Bank, and she's drawn up the paperwork for the notes and things like that. So I think at the Wetmore meeting, I should be able to bring those down and maybe get that taken care of so we can get the truck in service. So.
And again, I'll make the offer, and I mean it sincerely, because I have other things I could do in northeastern Colorado. So if you need a ride out there, or one of your employees needs a ride to Sterling,
Okay.
I'd be happy to take you.
That's quite a drive.
Yeah, it is.
Long drive.
It is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Roger and I went out first.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what time we left, but we didn't go back. It was 5:30 or 6. We left
Yeah.
very late.
Okay, well, just know.
Okay, I appreciate that.
All right, sir, thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for the RFP and the timing and all that. We'll move forward, by golly.
Sounds good.
Gentlemen, how about a quick 2-3 minute break?
myself.
Yeah, I know. Well, yeah, you've been in your office and other places. We haven't. Let the record show we're in recess for about 3 minutes at 10:57.
If you'd been here sooner, you could have gotten it done. We were waiting.
Wow. Just plead the fifth. Just take the fifth. I can see why Miss Forrest get up. He couldn't hardly walk
I
like
got a
that.
bad hitch here. I gotta get working out.
You gotta get on your get along.
Yeah.
Telling me.
Old age.
Or be young like me.
You might be young in age, but you act like an old lady.
So?
No, not you, Brenda.
I know, right? That was rude. How dare you talk about
When
Brenda
you're
like
not
that?
listening to the conversation and then you just hear something, it's like,
I didn't say it.
Excuse me?
Don't look at me.
You're the kid in the classroom that always points to everyone else.
Yes, absolutely.
You're the kid in the class everybody's pointing at.
Just can't imagine why.
My, it's breezy out there today.
Have you heard from Chris?
He left a message. I tried calling back. Never heard back.
That was months ago.
No, this is recently.
Oh, really?
Just say he's checking to see how I was doing.
How are you doing, Tim? You notice?
I'm still breathing. I'm still standing. So we're still.
It's half the battle right there.
No, it's not.
When I worked at the VA in Leavenworth, HR personnel.
In Leavenworth?
Yeah.
That's, oh, we went there. You go see Ray.
They didn't keep you there?
No, he was working.
Good, how are you?
He was
He
down.
was in the nursing home at Leavenworth,
Oh, they moved him?
Looks like
before he
you're
passed?
not.
and then they moved him back.
Oh, they did? Oh,
It's my story, go with me.
okay. Oh.
About
Anyways,
6 times
the
better
guy
than
in the
that.
office where he was disabled at, where he got.
Almost as good as
Yeah,
those.
terrible rheumatoid arthritis in his mouth, just so I said, Larry, how you doing? They said, well, woke up on the right side of the dirt.
That's true. I like that.
So that's a good start.
Well, Alyssa has drugs, so if you need some drugs, just ask her.
Says who?
The street.
Hey,
You can't believe everything you hear.
With everything on the street.
According to our agenda, planning and zoning, then public health, then BSO.
Planning and zoning would like to give her spot to public health.
Oh, okay, thank you for letting me know that.
I'm just kidding.
Planning
man, I'll run with
planning and zoning does not give any spot to anybody.
They take.
That's the
Right.
planning and zoning queen.
I grew up with 6. I don't share.
And where are you?
You survived.
6.
You're the baby. That's why. They were like, well, we can't kill her. She's the last one.
They'll miss her.
She's the
Brenda, we
spoiled
still
Right?
streaming?
Yes.
Okay, call the meeting back to order, thank you. Record 11:01. Next item on the business, next item on the agenda is planning and zoning.
Thank you, go ahead, Stacy.
No,
No, no.
wouldn't hear of it. Good morning. Again.
Yeah, it seems like I'm a frequent flyer lately.
Yeah, you just can't get enough.
Okay, so what we will do is, get all my little pieces of paper cut out. This was done, the report was done today, so that's how come Brenda didn't get a chance to send that to.
And we are, get on the right page here.
Okay, so the first thing I have is a subdivision waiver for Mick Babcock.
Yes.
Nick and Rick own the property together. I have a new deed that shows where they split it. Usually we give subdivision waivers in the county commissioners when they're split by a county road, or there's other circumstances that I spoke with Jay, and we'll talk about that other gentleman later. It's a function that the planning commission does unless it's split by a county road. So I took the liberty of doing the letter for Mr. Flower to sign, because in the paperwork that you're sent, all his ducks are in a row and he's good to go.
And it is the road, the county road's the issue here, correct?
Correct.
It's
And
bisecting their
if you'll
property.
notice, this, it's not a survey because they couldn't find these points, but we know that he has 35 acres plus or minus. We don't want to take the chance when he goes to get a well that they say, oh no, you have 34 or something. So that's how come I believe this is not a big deal. I hope that you guys all agree and that Mr. Flower will sign the letter.
And the intent here is really waiving Senate Bill 35.
Correct.
Or the results of Senate Bill 35, of requiring him to have 35 acres to drill a well.
Correct.
If he's 3/10 of an acre under, this waiver will cover that.
Correct.
What's the group's pleasure?
I move that we approve the waiver for the lot size that is slightly under for Mr. Nick Babcock of Pueblo, Colorado.
Okay.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to waive the requirements of Senate Bill 35 on said property of Mr. Mick Babcock, 40 Robertson Road, Pueblo, Colorado. That is not the property, that's his address.
Where was it again, Jackie?
On Greenwood Road,
Greenwood.
yeah. Which is County Road 389.
Right.
I think. Further discussion, comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. Motion carries. We will waive those requirements of Senate Bill 35.
Would you please sign it and hand it to Kelly to be recorded?
I will do that, yes, ma'am.
Thanks for bringing that to us.
Okay, the next one is the amended special use permit for the airport. I did give it to our attorney, and I haven't heard back, so
He got
since he's...
sick because of it. Out of here.
Yeah, so we'll wait for him to come
We'll
back.
wait till
Do
he
you
comes
think
back.
he was sick enough that he won't be back tomorrow? Because I could show up again tomorrow.
He said tomorrow he'd be
I
back.
think he'd be.
Oh, so you really will. The rest are just copies of the letters, so that you'll know what's going on. Okay, this one just came up. It's Roger Stotts. It's, now don't let me confuse you, but it's Aspen Acres Campground. His name is Roger Stotts. He owns also another property. He went and sold this property, and it's right there on the map. And then he actually had a land survey done. And what has happened is Trotter owns this property. And Trotter built this house, and he put in a well. And
On 10 acres. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, I just, it come over me.
Can't help it.
Yeah, it's just mind-blowing.
I'm gone.
It's mind-blowing, sorry.
1986, Mr. Trotter built the house and drilled the well.
Okay,
Mr. Trotter sold it to Aspen Acres Campground, which is Roger Stotts. Roger Stotts has now sold it to this Jerry Lee. When they went to do the paperwork, I don't have any record of a well, and which I usually don't keep anyway, but sometimes people will send them in, and you can imagine the file is unbelievable. Oh, I've done some research, and Division 2 said, yeah, we drilled the well, but we don't have a record of it. So here is a dilemma. Would you allow Mr. Stotts to get a subdivision waiver just like we did with Mick Babcock? He's already has the well there since 1986. The only reason why the Division 2 water will not recognize it is because they haven't found their paperwork. They said, Division 2 said that if the county commissioners would give them a subdivision waiver, then they'll recognize the well. And if we don't go this route, then we'd have to go through the planning commission, and it's a $300 fee. I feel that yes, everyone should go through the planning commission because that's what the zoning regs state, unless it's a county road or unforeseen circumstances. To me, this is not a circumstance that was created by the owner, and you already got a well, you've been using it since 1986, and so I would like to do a subdivision waiver letter and have Mr. Flowers sign it and have it recorded and have it done with, if that's the pleasure.
That's your recommendation?
Yes, sir.
I'll move that we approve the subdivision waiver for the well that's been in place for 30-some odd years.
We have to add up our age, 56.
Especially in light of the individual who would be penalized for this, is an innocent party.
He didn't create it, the division of water.
Yeah, but he could have checked the records, but he didn't, and I don't feel it's appropriate to do that since it's 32 years, I think, if my math is right. So I make a motion that we approve the subdivision waiver for that.
I'll second that one again.
it's been moved and seconded to waive the subdivision requirement. Same thing, SB 35 or no? Senate Bill 35 for, and I missed who the current owner is. I was looking, trying to find it on the county map, but I haven't been able to do that.
Right.
Jerry Lee.
Jerry Lee, thank you. Further discussion? I'm not being able to pull it up for some reason unless I'm just looking in the wrong place.
Okay, it might not be, in the system yet, but you can go by the parcel number and it ought to pull it up.
Okay, let me back up here.
What year did they do the well?
86.
Parcel number
When did they do SB 35?
74.
74?
Mm.
Parcel number, ma'am?
I'm trying.
Oh, okay, didn't know if you heard me. Is it this?
It's on there.
Yeah.
Well, that one just kind of got dropped, didn't it? By everybody.
Genuine.
Just kind of got dropped by everybody.
And
Yeah. Jerry Lee. Huh.
that's it. Found it.
And we don't have to do anything with adjacent landowners, any of that stuff, correct?
Not for a Senate Bill 35 waiver.
Okay. Okay, further discussion? Comments from the public? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion opposed, nay. Motion carries.
So may I do a letter and then just put it in Mr. Flower's box and he sign it?
Sure.
And then we can get it recorded?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So how often does this come, I mean, we don't do this every time we see you. This is pretty rare, is it not, this kind of issue that comes up?
The subdivision waivers?
Uh-huh.
We did 2 of them, remember, down in San Isabel once. Then we
Right,
won't.
I mean, it's been a long time, that's
But
what
then we
I'm
won't
asking.
do,
Because you would think, I would think that this type of thing would come up often. People way back when, not knowing you need permits and stuff, just go ahead and drill the wells, change his hands 4 times. Someone comes in and goes, whoa, I didn't know.
But they shouldn't have lost that record. That's not that
Not
old a
very,
well.
no.
no, but,
That's crazy.
you know how it goes when you
Yeah,
change hands and
Yeah, well, I know that, yeah.
who knows what
I
the
agree.
paper looked like.
I agree with Commissioner Kanda. That's an important paper, you just don't lose it.
Oh, you know what I
I
lost?
agree.
Well, I know
And I'm thinking
you.
you, I'm just saying, shame on him for losing
No,
it.
yeah, so Division 2, but at least they recognized the situation and was willing to go this route to make it right.
Yeah, at least they looked at a way of bureaucratically solving a bureaucratic problem. Get out from under it.
The next thing is just the zoning activity, and then the planning commission is meeting at the bowling alley today at 1:30 because there's a trial going on in the courtroom. And what it is the last planning commission meeting, we had a section called policy and procedures, and that was that resolution 12-02 we decided to put into the zoning resolution. Well, we did separate sections called policy and procedures, and at that meeting, the planning commission said, why are we doing different sections? Let's just combine them. So we combined the policy and procedures, but there was a lot of overlap, so we made the judgment of what had to come out of there, and it's for
Cleaning
the,
it up.
and so we'll see with the planning commission if they're happy with it. If they are happy with it, then hopefully there won't be any huge major changes. And then I look for it to be in your hands, hopefully by the end of the month, if not by June 1st, so that you, and it's all redlined, so you'll see where we changed everything.
Good.
You don't have regularly scheduled planning and zoning meetings, do you? Is it
Yes.
as needed, or is this a regular meeting?
Oh, no, it's as needed, but we do have a calendar, at the beginning of the year.
And the only thing different is the location. It was
Correct.
a schedule.
And we always did it on a Tuesday for the reason that the county attorney was here. That's how come we always schedule everything on a Tuesday, in case we needed a county attorney to attend. And they felt that, but see, at that time, the county attorney and the commissioners were all coming and they were already here. So that's how come we have them on Tuesdays. We used to do it at 1 o'clock, but now the judge would like us to do it at 1:30, so that changed a little bit. But unless we have something, we don't schedule nothing.
How much is septic permit?
$225.
This chart says 2006, 2018, but it ends at 2015. Am I missing something? We'll just not print out the end of it, because it says more on the bottom.
Yeah, that's interesting, because it should, the bottom should have changed too. The bottom should be 2018 right
That's not
there.
that's not a line though. That's showing you what the color code means. So 2015 are these.
Yeah, where's the
This
2000,
more.
is it 2018?
There must be other
more
colors
years.
that are
Uh-huh,
missing.
yeah, so, and these, they wouldn't
Nice,
fit,
huh?
so the bottom has to be redone. But thanks for noticing that, because yesterday,
So I like to look at these charts. These charts tell me a lot of what's going on in the county in terms of construction and building. I mean, everybody needs a drilling permit. Not everybody, not the towns, of course, but I mean, the county does. This really gives me a feel for what's happening, so I really kind of like this. So, okay, no
okay,
problem.
and yeah, no, thanks for.
Yesterday?
Yesterday I handed in a report out.
Bless you.
Yeah.
The cover sheet was wrong. It said ISDS. It should have said OWTS.
Hold on just a second, we lost us. Start again.
The septic rigs yesterday, I'll give you a new cover sheet.
Okay.
They said ISDS and they should say OWTS.
Give me a new cover sheet too, because we recorded that.
I'm not seeing what you're talking about unless I'm not looking for the
It's a
right
cover
thing.
sheet that's got a picture of the septic.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it was very good. Show the leach field and everything.
Yeah, it showed that.
It's
a great picture. I loved it.
document or not?
Pardon?
Here,
CDPHE
it's this one,
document?
right here.
Well, it doesn't do me any good if I don't know what it was titled, when it was when we were sent.
Custer County OWTS regs
This is it right here.
from yesterday,
Looks like
Hold
this.
on.
PDF file.
This one right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we
Yeah.
have the
Page 2.
septic.
So see how it says
what
ISDS,
was
they're
the-
not ISDS, they're OWTS.
What was the attachment called, Jay, on that?
I've got two and they're both CDPHEs.
That's
name of
today's,
this, the
you
Custer
need to look
County
at yesterday's.
Oh, it was yesterday?
Yes.
Yeah, yesterday.
Sorry.
OWTS, right? Yeah, I had to open up yesterday's paperwork to find it.
I like the old fashioned way. Kelly, where is that copy?
The paper app.
So just out of curiosity, is there a
Oh,
difference
there.
between an ISDS and an OWTS?
No.
Okay. It was just
Just
like,
an updated.
It's just the state.
okay.
Do we need to,
I'll just give her one.
formalize that or can you do that internally?
Yeah, I can,
Document?
it was just an attachment to that resolution,
Okay.
so we'll just
I'll do
rescan
that.
it.
What should have been
In-house.
titled?
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Pardon?
What
This
was the
should have
title?
said
Should be out.
OW.
It used to, for years, it was ISDS. And then when the state came back and started redoing everything, they decided to call it
Did somebody
OWTS.
want to make his mark on the history of this state? I changed the name.
And then the previous regs had the same picture, but it was faded. Now I just did a brighter picture. That way I can tell the difference. Okay, so, that's about it. I have a couple suggestions for the planning commission, at their meeting today, but, so it might delay the, raise a little bit, but, if it doesn't go through the planning commission, then maybe I can discuss the situation with the board before you approve these regs. I don't even know if it's a good idea or not, and I was wishing that Clint was here so that he could, would you like me to say the idea, or do you want me to say what the planning commission says?
Why confuse us?
It's really small.
I'd take it up with planning commission.
Okay. All right, so we'll go there, and then I'm done for the day.
Thank you. Very good. Other questions, gentlemen?
You're leaving late today.
Like, really?
4-hour lunch.
Thank you.
Leaving overtime, aren't you, Jackie?
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Can you guys say thank you too?
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank
Public
you.
health, next on the agenda. Good morning. How are
Morning.
ya?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Good to see you.
You too. Gun violence is a public health issue. Things I'm also doing at the same time this meeting. Okay, so biggest things. Health fair, of course, is done. Super good health fair. We saw more people this year than ever before.
How many was it?
So we had, there's a little bit of a discrepancy by like 6 people. So anyways, 500. So.
How does that discrepancy
Well,
occur when everybody registers?
Because everybody doesn't register.
Oh, really? And
Yeah.
you still?
Walk
I'm
in.
glad to know that.
Because
So we provide some, well, I won't register next year. We
That's what I was afraid of.
service
Stop.
to people who don't register anyway.
Well, and the only reason we got that is because we did the passport thing,
Yes.
and we got more passports.
After
people
that
registered.
cooler and,
Which I
So-
didn't
They
win,
were
by
looking
the
for
way.
the
I'm
free
really sorry.
handout.
So,
You didn't win?
Interesting.
yeah.
So maybe
So that
their
was a-
registration number needs to be on the passport.
Exactly. Exactly.
Did you pass out the goodies? They claimed them?
They did. Yeah. Yeah. I don't have that in my report, but I did in my thank you letter to the paper. I put in there
Good.
who won their stuff. So
Where does the money for that go?
where does the money for
That's charged for the health fair?
it goes to the health fair?
Okay,
Yeah, we don't get any of that.
okay.
So, but I think the only fees is the blood draws, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So it goes to
Okay.
you know to the processing that blood and putting it out, which they were super fast this year. We were getting results by Thursday.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
That's incredible.
They suck, but it's pretty amazing.
Well, it's not our fault that
The
they suck.
results. Well, whose fault was it that mine? You're not talking about my fault, surely.
Yes, Mr.
I
Flower.
call personal responsibility.
It's a
I
personal
have none
responsibility
when it
right now.
comes to cholesterol.
Okay, so the next thing that we have coming down the pike is the opioid coalition. We're working on that. So we're gonna do a presentation at the library on June 28th. And I think the cool thing about this, so we got the bluff for the 27th, 28th, and 29th. And the Colorado Opioid Consortium has put, not the Colorado, the United States Opioid Consortium has put together this wall for, so it's 38 feet long,
Wow.
8 feet wide, 8 feet tall, covered with little pill bottles. Every single pill bottle represents 10 people who have died from opioid abuse in the United States. Is being debuted in Westcliff.
Isn't that cool?
Love it. How did you pull that
Yeah.
one off?
Well,
for you.
Michael really is the brains behind that.
Wow, cool.
So we'll have that available at the Bluff, like I said, the 27th, 28th, and 29th. I just secured that this morning.
The schools will be taking a field trip out there, I sure hope.
Hopefully not on June 28th, because I hope that kids are not in school on June
Yeah, good
28th.
point.
There will be really frustrated kids and teachers if that's the case.
I'll bet I can assure you the commissioners will come by.
So, yeah, so that'll be fun. And then the night of the 28th at 6 o'clock, we're going to be doing a little talk at the library on like what it looks like locally, how you can help your neighbor, friend, family if you suspect or know that there's an opioid addiction problem or a potential problem. So that's some excellent education coming down the pike. Lots of drills going on with public health, getting ready for the bad day, which is typically going to be a fire around here. So, we're not going to do that. We should have our public health assessment ready by the end of the week to present. So, by next BOCC, I'll have that ready. And the new shingles vaccine we'll have hopefully next week as well. Any questions?
Yep.
I just have a comment. We spoke yesterday with the clinic chairman of the board, and I asked the question about your space.
He is not the chairman of the board.
Oh, he's not?
No.
I apologize.
Oh, you know what? Yes, he is. Sorry, my apologies. I was.
We spoke with somebody who acted like they were in charge.
Okay? Tom told me.
I meant that as a joke. I mean that with all due
Yeah,
respect.
Tom told me.
If you're watching me, I didn't mean it in any ugly way. But anyway, the response was that, of course, it's possible someone may eventually buy the clinic, and you know, if that happens, then all bets are off. But their intention at this point is not to make any changes back there, because I've been very concerned about that, as you have too. So the indication was their intention is not to make any changes.
Okay.
So
Good to
I
know.
just thought I'd give you that.
Okay, yeah,
heads
that's a
up.
little piece of mind actually.
You really need more space, so maybe we want to make a change, but
Right.
bottom line is, tomorrow we don't need to start
Right.
running
Your
around
rent
trying
is
to
paid
find
so far.
Yeah, and I guess
And I did bring that up.
Yeah, my question's gonna be to follow up on that very thing,
Yeah.
that we did discuss, actually, Mr. Tobin brought it up, that in the future, the clinic may be put in a position to charge us rent.
They're gonna wait till after the
So
election.
here is my question.
See what the new guys, if they're.
Is it beneficial for you to be in the clinic versus somewhere else?
Not necessarily, no.
If we're
I mean,
gonna-
there's really no benefit for us being in the clinic other than I can walk a health advisory network down the hallway. That's seriously it. I mean,
So
so.
and I certainly don't mean this negatively,
Right,
but we don't need to feel like we're up against a wall, we either pay the rent or not.
Right.
And there's no not to it, we gotta pay the rent.
Right.
If we had another office for you, that would be a possibility.
I'll meet with you. Let's talk about, I mean, not today, but let's talk about how many rooms you, if, I mean, in an ideal world, what you'd like, and then we can think about that. Just kind of keep that in the back of our heads, so when they do come and say rent's $100 a month, we go, no problem,
Right.
we'll pay it. They come and say it's $1,000 a month, we're gonna go, wait a minute, is this our best interest? So
Go rent a house.
we'll get, yeah, exactly. So we'll try and get our act together, so we're prepared. when
Okay,
they
yeah,
come.
and I have a pretty good idea of what that looks like, so.
And I mentioned to Mr. Tobin that we would be in no position to entertain that until budget time, 2019 budget. So it's not like tomorrow,
Okay,
so
sounds good.
Yeah, and he was pretty receptive.
he was fine.
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah. We have a pretty
No,
good
he's a great guy.
relationship.
No issue there.
Any other questions, gentlemen?
No, it's good.
Keep us healthy, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Keep going.
Thanks for coming over. Nice to see you.
Yep, thanks.
The calendar's marching on.
I know. Oh, and by the way, speaking of calendar, today is my 1-year anniversary on this job.
Oh, really?
All right,
You
thanks.
squeaked
All right,
by.
thank you. All right, next on our agenda, Veteran Service Office. Good morning, sir. How are you? Thanks for being here. How are you? You can come in, we're about done, probably another 15, 20 minutes. Oh, okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, pretty short and sweet today, so, as usual, state report. So, pretty much, same thing, phone calls, visits, 56 appointments, a month, and like I said, I was out of town for about a week for my dad's memorial out in Illinois, so nothing exciting, nothing really new there. So that's just the stats on a monthly basis.
Okay.
Any questions? Oh, in April I did track, as you requested, we had 7 appointments from different counties. 2 were from the Kansas City area, 3 from Cotopaxi, which close by, and then actually submitted a claim just this week that been working with from Levita.
Okay,
So
well, thank you for doing that,
Yeah.
that's interesting to know that. It's not shown on this state report.
no, there's no one to put that, so I just kind of
Yeah, okay,
keep track on that. Stuff like that. So
okay, good, thank you for doing that.
I remember to do it. This
Good, okay.
So any questions on the report?
I do not.
Any anomalies on here, anything we need to know that, everything business as usual?
Yeah, that's business as usual. One of the things, this last week was a good week, as far as we got positive, results on 3 claims, including one Vietnam vet who got an increase to 100%. So, and just so you're aware, this vet was at 90%. The difference between 90% and 100% for disability payments is a $1,200 difference per month. So, pretty significant, because prior to that, from 10% to 90, it's only a $200 to $300 increment change. That last 10% is over $1,200. So it's huge. It's huge.
Wow.
So that's why that's always important. Any other questions on that? All right, number 2, and before we go too far, I want on the record to say thank you. My dad's Memorial in Illinois. It was a nice surprise. The flowers, a nice arrangement, and for on behalf of my mom and family, I want to say thanks. It was a great gesture. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're certainly thinking about you, so. Glad to do it.
It was a good trip, great service, it lasted 2.5 hours, it was great.
Wow. No kidding.
It's available live, on Facebook if you're interested. See it, so.
Wow.
So your relatives all over the country watching it live, so good. Number 3 on my list today, just reminding June, the first week of June, I will be at the National Training Conference. I would keep my accreditation certification going. Everything. So I'll be gone from the 3rd, Sunday the 3rd, I'll be back late on the 8th. That's Friday. Okay.
Where's that at?
It's in Reno this year. Not high on my list of places I want to go, but that's where it's at this year. The conference I've gone, this will be my 3rd year in a row I've gone to national. It's phenomenal training to get undersecretary level of the VA speakers coming in for some of the training and briefings and so it's really a phenomenal week as far as education goes. I mentioned last month about John Grego from Senator Bennett's office. We confirmed that a date confirmed. We'll be here on Monday the 21st at 10 o'clock, and it'll just be an open forum for vets to come in. He likes to come at least once a year, just be available to hear from vets. Anything that's going on that we can check on. John's been a phenomenal asset for this county since I've been connected with John early on when I got hired, and he's just a go-getter. He's one of those guys, if he says he's going to do it, he does it. If he says he's going to respond, send you an email, call you back, he always does. So he's to get the annex in the meeting there. 10 o'clock.
What's the date?
21st of May. Okay. Yeah, if you can maybe do it. He's a young guy, phenomenal, go-getter. So good. And then the last thing that I always call the personnel update. This afternoon I have my pre-op appointment at 1:30. Have my surgery tomorrow morning. This is the 3rd time. So my 3rd time should be a charm. Get this thing done. And due to the ongoing health issues, as everyone's aware of, out in the public, we're looking to put our house up on the market 1 June, and that's the wild card, is how fast that sells. If it sells this summer, we'll be moving this year. If it sells next summer, we'll be here until that sells. But one of the things I'm in discussion with Donna Hobby about is when I got hired, it was pretty much jumped into the frying pan and figured out type situation. So my thought process has been, what I presented to Donna was, and that's why I got Roger's name on there, just so I remember to bring this up. Roger just retired. He was the social director at the Veterans Home in Walsenburg, and he lives in Rye. He just retired, but he is still on contract for 1 day a week to go to the Veterans Home as the VSO. He is not only VA accredited as a regular accreditation VSO, he is also individually accredited. So he's gone through, and he's at the next level. He's just turned 70 years old. He's still got a lot of energy. He's still doing great. Roger's been a source for me to call, for things. And so I called Roger. I told Don, I said, it would be very helpful if my house sells this summer, also, and I'm gone, say September. Roger is more willing to come on an interim basis, a couple days a week, to help with the transition as the county announces the job, hires, so on and so forth, so there's not a gap in there for service. And that's just something I want to present to the county. That has to be decided right now. But the other advantage would be that if the county were then once hired, he would still be willing to come up if you were interested for a couple days of training week for that new person. And it would get that person up to speed much quicker and less trial and error than what I went through. And he's a great asset. It's something I highly recommend to consider. And when the time comes, I'm going to invite Roger to see if he can come on the 21st. That way, if you can make it, you'll be able to meet him. He's a Vietnam vet. He started getting involved in veterans issues and helping vets right after he got back from Vietnam. And so he's been doing in this realm of benefits and so forth for a long time. So he's a real asset to have. So anyways, that's just an idea as I start contemplating those type of things, and it's high priority is how do you do a transition without the office being a gap in there for a month or two or whatever it takes.
So before you had thought it might be hard to get a replacement and we'd have to share, is that we don't?
No, I don't. I think I've got people inquiring. One thing that's different now is when I applied, it was a part-time. My initial year was $10,000 pay. The pay being where it's at now, it's going to be more attractive to a wider range for people to apply. When it comes time to announce, I mentioned to Don, I said I'd send to the state office and then go out to all the VSOs, or maybe someone in a rural area who would like to go from part-time to full-time, who's already state certified. It'll be more attractive than the way it is now than being full-time with full-time benefits than it was when I got hired. So I think you get a wider range. I told Don, I said, announces up to the transition centers at Fort Carson, Air Force Academy, all the bases up there, because you might find he's only 78, 40, 42, 20, getting ready to retire. We love to live up here, and the combination of that 20-year retire, 22-year check plus this would be very, it opens up the possibilities. So it's a broader range of we're hiring for sure. So, okay. Any questions? That's all I got.
I hate to see you go.
I'm not going yet.
I move that we accept the VSO report for the month of March. I guess it's the month of April. I'm sorry, April.
So moved and seconded to accept the BSO report for the month of April. Further debate? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries.
Officers?
I just had a quick question. Is the event on the 21st, is that open to the public?
Yes, it's open. Okay. All right.
Now you can go.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. All right. Oh, yeah, surgery's tomorrow, so I'll be out for about a week and a half. I'll be back on the 15th.
Good luck.
Good luck. We'll be thinking about you for sure.
This is initially hernia, which I got it done before they do the tumor. So, step one.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Next item of business is any unfinished business come before the board. I'm not aware of any.
I do not have any, sir.
None. We'll move on. Any new business?
I have nothing that we haven't discussed.
Okay.
I'm good.
Canada. Public comment. Hello, Ms. Arden. Hearing none, we will adjourn this commissioners' meeting at 11:39.
Can we do this again tomorrow?
Yeah, let's do it again tomorrow. It's pretty cool. So
And you did it almost by 11:30.
let's do it 3 days in a row.